Good evening, TNT family. Welcome back to Yellow is the Code on UNC USA. And with me here is Mr. Suman Singh. And as usual, my other friends will join us lately in the program. We see quite a few things happening in the country. The crime spree. We also saw the confusion and mischief and misleading information spreading by the PNM in reference to the reorganization of the CPEP and URP program. We also have seen a lot of information came forward in the public domain about the allocation of funding and how it's been utilized. And I mean, it is very upsetting for me to see that I would say 80% way it looks like uh, for the top management of the whether it's CPEP or URP, and the money is not really being trickled down to the people who's doing the job on the ground. And we have a lot of people that has been out of work. We have a lot of people, that's really could use a job there, and to see that the money being absorbed with the friends and associates and people not on the job and just on the payroll. We can't allow this to happen. And I would ask those who are temporarily out of work that to be our patient. The government is not trying to harm you, but they're trying to restructure the process so that it can benefit you. This is what the prime minister wants. She wants, and her government wants, that you benefit from the resources of the state, and not just a certain few that leaves with the bulk of the money, and the majority the people are suffering. So, Mr. Suman Singh, thank you for joining me on UNC USA Yellow is a Co program. And I would like to get your input on, I mean, this situation we've been discussing. This is really upsetting to see bulk of the money. I would say, looking at the figures, I would say 80% of the money goes to top management and their friends and associates instead of the people who really needs it. And we don't see the value for money with the work getting done in the country. So I would like to get a little uh, input from you on this situation.
Well, hello, Gary, and hello to our viewing audience and those who may have joined us on the various social media platforms. Welcome. Gary, I totally agree with you. This, is a situation which is very, very discourteous on the previous administration. I mean, here is it that, as you said, most of the money allocated for the program, which is the CPEP program, are basically going to salaries and wages, not of the people doing the work, but a lot of them has been absentee or ghost employees. What does that mean? Well, it means people names are appearing as in the monthly payroll staff and they're not there. They're absent from the job, absentee jobs that were created for friends and family. Sometimes with the ghost gangs, and the ghost gangs meaning that that money is shoveled into an account. It's shoveled in an account like a miscellaneous account, which more than likely will be only the senior official or officials of the program, or could be any one of the line ministers and their friends and family having access to it. So here was it that tantamounts to fraud, and I really hope that these some of these names or ghost names can be brought to bear from the legal perspective, because it will definitely show up where and who the persons who run the program, where the funds went. Now, as you see, very little went uh, you know, to purchase, materials and so on. But most were paid for labor. And in some cases, I saw um, people or persons who were in the payroll. Some of them were in universities, some of them were in foreign universities as well. So, how can that happen? Shouldn't be somebody be accountable for that? And seeing that there was no uh, external or audit on the activities for CPEP over a number of years, then the wrongdoing continued. And it continued for the better part of 10 years or more.
Mr. Singh,
So,
hold on a second there. I was looking for this figure the other night and while we were talking. A well-known radio political propagandist has been on the payroll of the unemployment relief program for more than 5 years at $9,220 a month.
wow.
All right.
And never
Think
showed
about
up
it.
to work.
No,
work with it.
they're going around riling up the people and saying the government discriminating against Afro trainees and all they should not have voted UNC and all this. Look at this. Is the people that they're claiming to fight and they're trying to rile up. The people that they're claiming to fight for and they're trying to rile up, right? Were they the real beneficiaries of this large sum of money? Which one of them?
Well, definitely not the people who are doing the work at the ground level.
Right.
It
And
was-
let's see here. Her title is Special Project Coordinator. She has never reported to work. The tea lady at the primary PNM office is paid $4,140 a month as a URP material supervisor, but had never done such duties. Are they clarifying this? Are they telling the people when they go to rile them up and tell them the government discriminating against them, right? Are they
yeah.
telling them who's collecting the larger sum of money while some people may have to pay a fee to get a 10 days? Because I hear about this too for a long time, all right? Paying a fee to get a little 10 days. In the meantime, you have people here collecting large sum of money while you on the ground doing the job, not getting paid anything close to this. A PNM General Secretary, a PNM General Council member pulls down $6,325 a month as an assistant regional manager, and you get it has not carried any functions as same as the PNM constituency chair who collects $4,600 a month as a personal development officer, and a preliminary audit has unveiled a shocking list of political cronies living high of taxpayers thanks to blatant racketeering. The daughter of a former URP kingpin has been on the payroll since September 27, 2017 as a project evaluation officer, right, at $5,175 a month. Which one of these workers on the ground get anything close to this? The daughter of two PNM officials receive monthly URP funds while they attend university at St. Augustine and the other one at Cape Hill, right? A PNM constituency activist pockets $5,750 a month as an absentee quality control officer, and so on. Think about that. I want to bring this to our listeners to understand. So when these people come to rile you up and talk about race and all this kind of nonsense and the government discriminating against you, understand what the government is dealing here with. Of the 300 million allocated to URP for the current fiscal year, 231 million has been drawn so far, with only 2 million spent on goods and services. Think about that.
So that is the way to siphon off money. goods and services. What is goods and services? 2 million out of 300 million for goods and services. Well, this is a way of, just robbing the citizenry of the public funds. And I will really like to see if CPAP has to shut down for 5 months or 6 months or a year, get the damn thing going in order. Let the chips fall where they have to fall, because this thing cannot continue. Some of the wages or salaries, I should say, those are not wages, they're salaries, meaning that they and monthly staff, and they got it for 12 months. So you're talking like $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 every month. They're not working, no productivity out of it, and they were being paid. What about taxes and so national insurance and all these things?
Here now, 16, here this now. The remainder has been assigned to the payroll, but the initial study found that just over a quarter of the 16,000 named employees to go to work, of the 1,100 people on the monthly paid roster, a minority turns up for duties. Many workers are politically beneficiaries of a corrupt system of the actual employees. There is a 10,000 a month for the special report coordinator who does clerical duties at the El Securo head office. A secretary at a political office is paid as a URP engineer, right? As a URP engineer. The auditor revealed at least 150 million in the current fiscal year has gone to a ghost system that includes registered monthly and daily paid employees. There are at least 80 gang bosses who submit names for monthly payments. The listed workers are given a quarter of the wages for the use of their names. So come again, Stuart Young, Faris, and all whoever out there about discrimination against the people. Who discriminated more? Who has discriminated more against the people? I paying them crumbs and taking the bulk of the cash for your friends and associates.
Well, I want these things to go before the legal commissions, whether it be through the court system or whatever, because
I want somebody jailed and money retrieved.
Yes, and let the chips fall where it have to fall, because that is too much. That's millions of dollars siphoned off the project, and who knows where that money is really sitting, whether all was paid to the employees or part of it was paid to the employees who were on the payroll, whether that money was siphoned to personal bank accounts like the project coordinator or the person in charge of the project, whether that money is sitting or help pay for, let's say, even Balize House. You never know where is that money sitting and who made use of it, whether the persons named were actually getting the amount. Gary, you understand what I'm saying? They may be just getting a percentage and having to contribute another percentage towards, building up PNM assets. So that paper trail has to be found out, and you have to get the support of the banks and so on to ascertain, if there were transfers to PNM projects around the country. So this is very wide-reaching, a very, very wide-reaching topic. And I say it must have, the legality of it all must be brought to bear. So, in my view, a lot of people will be expected to answer an account for it. And we should set a precedent of all these people who have been found guilty. Name them and shame them, as the case may be, if you have to do that. you know. So
Yeah, we have to deal with them because you see they're running around, sneaking around, trying to instigate people that the government is against them and attacking a certain race of people, right? So I want to ask the PNM, why is only a certain race of people in URP and CPEP in the first place? Don't we have a mixed population?
yeah, but this is what they're trying to do. In fact, it will show up their own racial divisiveness. You know, that will show up exactly what is happening. If you're saying the black man was the one who is being impacted, then that means CPEP and URP was all blacks. It was racial to start
So
with
they were practicing discriminatory hiring practices,
from the beginning.
right?
So
Is that what
for
they're
them
trying to
to,
tell us? Is
yeah,
that what they're trying to tell us?
so they putting their foot in their own mouth, so to speak, and that will happen because you
Well,
can.
we know for a fact that there is no way that Mississippi Sesa will discriminate against anybody. She has campaigned on a government for all the people. She has embraced all our people. All our people embrace her. We want this government because of Mrs. B. Sesa's demeanor, her personality, how she treats people, how she embraces people. So for those who were saying that we could not win the government, the people overturned those words and showed them and came out in their large numbers to support a prime minister that they believe and they trust and they love and knows that she loves them. And this is her mission to make a better life for them in TNT.
Yeah, this huge matter ones were the ones who crossed the floor, so to speak, and voted for the current government because they realized what was happening. They realized if they throw the support behind the UNC, they will be much better off given the fairness and equity in which the current PM operates. She does not discriminate. If she was discriminating, why don't they say how many people got HDC houses under her rule? They should. Penny should check that. She wanted to go to the statistics how much was the cost of in India's PM Modi visit was, and she's so concerned about the cost. What did it cost the taxpayer? Then she should, before she opens her mouth and blame the race as the issue with CPEP, then she should find out how many of her supporters got houses under the People's Partnership. And then you see if there's any race in that. How many?
So they're talking about 700 URP work groups in Trinidad, right? Well, the THA runs the system in Tobago.
Yep.
500 of those work groups are assigned to the 6 regions along the east-west corridor.
So monies was siphoned off from
Why
Tobago,
only the east-west corridor?
from Tobago to pay for this thing in Trinidad. And this is
Yeah,
what
but let's leave Tobago out of it for a minute here. What we've seen is 500 out of the 700 URP work groups. 500 is assigned to the east-west corridor alone.
that this is what I said in the first place, not today, but prior to this. So it's only the East-West corridor has CPEP and URP. What about the rest of the country, south of the Caroni Bridge? So they're not part of the country then, and they're trying, Penny and the PNM is trying to justify that stupidity. And then now, what the spin is going to be? Oh, that only Mr. So and so, the whole crew of them, the whole crop of all the PNM ministers, they knew very well what they were doing, and they knew very well of who the recipients of all these, monies went to, and they knew also all the ghost gangs that were involved, and they also knew that these projects were mostly in the east-west corridor, but more specifically were in the marginal constituencies of the east-west corridor. So, you know, and wait, why was it only around this year, election year?
And we're discovering the same kind of racket, right?
Yeah,
With the CPEP and the National Reforestation and Watershed Rehabilitation Program. The
correct.
restoration program launched in 2004 should have owned at least 5 billion through harvesting teak, mahogany, and other lumber. A study found that taxpayers have received a mere fraction in revenues because of ghost bosses and overall management. We need accountability. Faris, Stewart, Imbud, Rowley have to explain this.
Right. Another, if they can't explain, it's a special place for them. It's called a jail. Because I cannot see if these people are not prosecuted, Gary. I'm telling you, and I'm warning the nation, then if things remain as is, people will just blank the UNC the next time around. Because they say then they have justifiable reasons to show the UNC and the PNM is the same thing, is the same party. So the UNC better get their act together and and do a thorough analysis of these ghost gangs and the expenditure of funds and so on for this CPEP and URP project and find where these ghost names and so on were, who got the monies, you know. And this is the reason why most of these government officials don't file the Integrity Commission, you know, annual income and expenditure, because it will show how much monies you earn other than your salaries. Where did that money come from? You know, if one as one minister was able to deposit 140 something $1,000 in cash, so probably that is where the monies show up. So this is a serious matter, and they're trying to cover it up and use race as the sticking point to incite the lower
I am
level
I
staff.
am hearing a lot about what they have been doing in the ground, trying to instigate people to make them feel that they made a mistake voting UNC,
Yes,
right?
yes,
And I cannot sit by and watch all of this going on that took place and allow them to slide with that. Welcome, Nadira, Anthony. How you doing, my buddy, Anthony? Hey, I wish one of you guys would join us someday on this live program. We'd like to hear your voice. So let me know. I'll send you a link.
yes. All are welcome. You know, all are welcome. It's not only for us; it's for the entire nation who wants to hear what has happened and why is the economy in such an impoverished state.
Yeah, Nadira has been one of my strongest support out there for a while, and Anthony is a good friend I went to school with. I'm happy to have been able that he found us.
Nice, nice.
Anthony from that Montrose Vidic era.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, then. Nice.
So
Great.
yeah. So
So, getting back to the point, what we are saying is that people have to be prosecuted. In short, people have to be prosecuted, brought to bear, find out where the funds went, who were the persons culpable, and all those who received money under false pretenses should first pay back.
no, we need some documentation how this money was allocated, the name of this person, and
Correct.
and
But
I mean, that accountability. You cannot operate government like a mama pop shop. What
but
do you think this is in this day and age? You going to allocate government taxpayers' money and not document how it's who it's allocated to? What do you think it is?
But Gary, it comes back again what I've been saying all along. Who are the persons responsible for the accounting of every single ministry? Who is the head of the accounting department?
Well, the accountant seems to be in part of the process too.
No, it's not the accountant. They're not the accountants and the accounting assistants and so on. They are not the people. They just follow the policy.
Anthony is wishing you a good night. They're saying hello to you, and
The, the buck
so
stops.
Nadira.
Let me call it back. The buck stops with the permanent secretaries and all our cronies.
Yes, Anthony and Nadira, we want to be able to hear from the people on the ground. Going forward, if you guys, don't mind joining us in the program or invite people to join us here, we want to. I mean, they don't have to come live on camera. They can go off camera and say what they have to say. So we would like to get some feedback from our people in TNT. As we go forward, we've been asking for that. So hopefully, extend the invitation on our behalf to our people that we want to hear from them.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Singh.
Yeah, and hello, Anthony. Thanks. Good night to you as well, my friend. Yeah. So the thing is, as I was saying, the permanent secretary is the head of the accounting unit in any single ministry. Not the accountants, not the accountant one,
But
accountant.
you know what's boggling here to me, Mr. Singh, is that where's the DPP on this? Where is the Well, I know they refuse to give the Auditor General the accounting
Accessibility,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
accessibility to the records.
yeah, right? I mean, this is unacceptable,
Man. So
totally unacceptable. Knowing the fact that we have had too many people reach out to us for help, we have seen too many people suffering. The lack of services that was, I mean, the dilapidation of you walk down, say Shawanas, you're going the manhole wide open, you could walk into it. Many people have fell through there. In fact, I heard the one on in Kufa there just before the MP office where somebody had fell down and kept coming out of a taxi and died. You go by
oh,
the ID card office just before UNC headquarters. There's big wide open manhole. You have to watch how you park in your cars. I mean, our infrastructure, you have seen it, has been grossly, those pavement, them sidewalks were built like they were built in the 1900s and never repaired. You
yes.
know, and we seen the level of work that our local government councils had to do as we took government in order. I mean, they took government in a time when, I mean, the rainy season was right upon them, and they had to move with haste.
And the country must never, never forget these misgivings from the
Totally
PNM.
unacceptable. I can't accept that at all.
These things have to be documented. Persons have to be charged. Their name should always be on the forefront, and this must be communicated to the public. But Gary, you remember I told you all that what happened in 2010, what happened in 1995, and what happened in 1986. It's the same trend is continuing. Nobody's. You know
Yes.
what? Did Calder Hart ever got anybody? Was he charged for anything?
Well, let me tell you something. When we get done with these people here, we have to go after him too.
You know, and this is what they're saying. So this wrongs persons have to be charged and incriminated and be jailed, as they will think the
But
UNC.
they had the audacity to try and sling up Mr. Pandey for
Yeah,
the most beautiful airport that was built in the country. They try everything to
Yep.
go after him, right? Send, I mean, dozens of police with heavy machine guns and things to go and arrest the former prime minister and humiliate him, and it's been, how to say, brandishing him in a way as he's a criminal. And you know the thing about the PNM, they're always referring to white collar crime.
Yeah.
You understand? This is
Correct.
a racist thing, they're going after all the UNC Indians because they are white collar criminal. That's what they're trying to say. But they're
Yeah.
leaving the guy who run in the streets and shooting people with a machine gun. He don't have to worry because we're going after. They're banging this thing about white collar crime. And the only white collar criminals in the UNC, except for the PNM don't have none, and the most honest Indian in the whole country is in the PNM name. You know who he was, who claiming to be the
Yeah.
most honest Indian, right?
The only one honest one. Yeah.
Yeah, the most honest Indian in the country was in the PNM, and he was, you
Yeah.
know,
Yep. Your friend from the East. Anyway,
yeah.
the thing is, but what happens, Gary?
So we have to
Where
come back
was,
and never expose them.
but listener, where was all these community groups? Where was all the religious groups? Where was all the Chamber of Commerce? What all the press, every single one of the press, print media and so on? Where was Transparency International? Where were the so-called groups, that pressure groups and so on? Huh? All of them had pip in their mouth at that time, you know. But suddenly some of them found their voice, you know. And what the voice they are championing now is the UNC is playing the race card because it's affecting the black man now. Because again, who were the ones who caused them to be in this situation?
They made us think about Mr. Modi shifting the Afro Trini kid to the side and trying to organize the kid. He moved as a grandfather. He wasn't pushing away the kid, aligning the kid so they could take the pictures.
Yeah, well,
So, and the thing about it, what Mr. Modi is giving to Trinidad is not only for Indian people, Indian origin people. The only thing the Indian origin people getting is the OCI card. The rest of the goods and services is for the entire country.
yes.
And India always embraces everybody regardless of race.
Well, if that is the case, why don't some of the African countries give the same concessions to the Afro population? If that is such an issue for them.
But the fact is, what I'm saying, they're trying to spin. They're in the community on the ground. They're right now because they have a what they call is like a racist cabal within the PNM, right? We know that fact, and they are trying to instigate and make the people feel that they're being betrayed. You see, Ole should have never voted this way, but the people were sick and tired, and you see them, they're trying to derail the young people that decided to stand up and say no more. They ain't taking that. So the people saw it. They saw it clearly that they had a good-hearted prime minister in waiting. They have experience. She have unleashed the treasury on the people. She gave to the people. She never told the people to win themselves off the government and try to
No,
smack them around when they try to ask a question.
no, the arrogance in which we ruled for the 10 years, that's testimony by itself, you know. No, they were unreachable. They were not listening to the population. They were not accounting for the funds used or expenditure incurred. They did their own projects. How, you know, the various projects initiated in the marginal constituencies. Was anybody told of these things? Well, who were the ones who released the monies for these things? Is my question. So, along with the politicians, some of the public servants as well have to be incriminated for these crimes because they were the ones authorizing the payment, and they knew it was wrong because they were breaching the financial regulations of the land. So how can you say you were a permanent secretary and breaking the laws?
Dr. Mirage in the house. Welcome, Dr. Mirage.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, doc. Okay, man. Okay.
Hey, you guys again. Why not?
No, no, no. This is
Doc, what the thing about this, see, I got some new information, which is old information, and the fact that the PNM is working the ground trying to cause division as they usually would against Mrs. Bisesa, saying that what she is doing it has a racist connotation. Say then, basically, and she discriminating against Afro Trinis. But I just read out, the level of money allocated and how it was distributed, and for people, a social media propagandist was getting $9,220 a month, not even on the job, doc. Not even on the job, doc. And and then you see another person getting $4,140 a month, and one secretary being described as an engineer, and another person getting $4,600 a month, and the ordinary CPEP people, workers, ain't getting nothing close to that. Who breaking the tail in the sun, who dung in the drain, who cutting the grass, who could have gotten a little more money for what the job that they're doing, but the money was sucked up on heavy management, top heavy. Right? And they have the audacity to go out there now and say Kamala discriminating against them, UNC discriminating against them. But Doc, I don't want to stray too much on this here. I want to give you a chance to talk about the crime. And we are seeing the crime spree. Anthony says, welcome, Dr. Maraj. Anthony's in the audience. Yeah. So the crime spree, we see taking place. We saw this lady recently kidnapped. We saw the gentleman who was missing, found dead. And, we recently seen some shooting Triple Motor and Gonzalez there. And one guy killed was Michael Ross. The other guy, David Matre, and one of the guys turned out to be, I understand, is off-duty policeman. Off-duty policeman. Yeah, David Lemaitre. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Anyway, so Mr. Davies is an off-duty policeman that was just hanging out with the boys on the corner. You get off work and you lie with your friends a little bit, and somebody come up in a car out and just come out of the car and gun you down. So these criminals wants to operate, freestyle, and and then you don't see nobody rising up and saying anything about it, but they get hot and sweaty when the Prime Minister of the UNC says about stand your ground and they're going to give licensed firearm. And we have gone to the point now where we are giving the police officer the opportunity to take the firearm home. But for far as I'm concerned, like I told you before, a policeman never be off duty.
I want to stick a pin here. Do you think that this recent upsurge,
this is not a recent upsurge. This is an ongoing thing.
Yeah, but
they're continuing.
Recent meaning since UNC, this is what I should be saying. Since the UNC came into power this time around, this has been the most frightening period for as far as crime goes. But do you think there's a connection between CPEP and URP being terminated in the short term and this happening, what is happening in the crime?
Maybe not, because but this has been happening
because
regardless of what's been taking place, there has been the contract killing between the CPEP and the Africa gang, how to say, contractors and stuff like that. We have seen them kind of thing go on. But what the thing about it is here, I want to see Doc, and we have discussed this, and I have an agreement on the fact that the police needs to be out there. All right, the police can be coming. The police has to be out there on patrol, ready to respond. We need rapid response. We need consistent patrolling. We need to apply every deterrent strategy as possible. A preventative strategy. We don't need a reactive strategy here. We need these are the basic things before we get to all the technology and how we should upgrade the police and this and that. We need the basics on the ground. The police in the face, and when they call because how they deployed, because of how they are deployed, the response will be more efficient because they're already out there. They're strategically deployed. So when we call for help, they come in quicker. Not now they're going to put on their pants when you call for help. But go ahead, Dr. Mar.
No, let me finish my point, Gary. What I was making is that this recent, let's say, escalation, then is it playing into the hands of the PNM? Because remember, they said that with the unemployment of so many people from CPEP and URP on being out of work, that it can lead to an escalation in crime. This is what
this has been happening regardless of Mr. Singh. They could say what they want to say, but the fact is this has been happening.
They tried to justify this. PNM was trying to justify this thing last week. I don't know if you recall that. They said with so many people being out of job, expect more criminal activity in society. So
we should tell them expect more enforcement. We need to deploy the defense force. We need to take them out of the barracks, put them on the streets, team them up with the police, joint patrols, and they must be consistent.
Yeah, but shouldn't they have that policy implemented? Because crime was one of the hot topics in the election, right? And I personally think that, I don't know if Mr. Marat shares my view, I think they should have hit the ground running, a little while back.
I see in the Minister of National Security saying that the job is for the police commissioner, and he's holding the police commissioner, but I think he has to chastise the police commissioner. I need him to tell him what we expect from him. All right, people coming out of the force, they are all buddy at the same point. So I'm kind of concerned with the buddy system because they don't want to step on toes. But the way things are going, we cannot accept the fact where it's going. So the police needs to step up, and the commissioner of police needs to step up. He needs to properly manage his team. He needs to properly supervise his team. He has to let us know where resources are needed and what kind of resources, and he has to communicate that with the Minister of National Security. But the communication has to be flowing, but the certain responsibility, yes, the police commissioner has a certain amount of responsibility, which he has to do his job, but at the same time, we're not leaving it totally up to him. But Dr. Maraj, I want you to give you a chance tonight to deliver your views on being you're a former policeman, you're within the force. I mean, you might not know certain things that's happening in the country because you've been away from TNT just like I am. And, I want to give you a chance to state your views on things.
Because if listen to what you all are just saying, if the past government or the opposition is justifying the reason for lawlessness, that you took away jobs from them and therefore they have no recourse but to turn to crime, they should never hold office again, because that is justifying criminal activity. Or you lost a job, therefore you should go and thief and kill. So in that case, I cannot run. I supposed to run my business the way I see fit. And if I have to let go people, or if I have to cut back my business because things are getting tight, I must be allowed that reign. So don't come and tell me that the government doesn't have money and they should keep on employing people that don't have money. They make that argument before, that if the government doesn't have money, they can't employ anybody. So that's why they're saying go and tax the house, tax and land tax and all kind of different tax, because they want to take the money from good law-abiding citizens and pass it on to the would-be criminal. Who I say would-be criminal, because they're saying that if we let go these people and don't re-employ them back, they will turn to crime, as though they have only two options: crime or work CPEP or URP, or which one of these they're talking about. So they have disqualified themselves over and over by making such an argument, justifying criminality, that they don't deserve to be in government. And I don't know where the UNC is in all of this, but they're awfully stupidly quiet. Last week we said these things, that we're not hearing anything from the commissioner yet. I don't know how long he's taking. He's coming from inside of the balls of the movement, and therefore he should have his finger on the pulse. In a week time, he should come out 2 weeks or 3 weeks for the most. He should come out. It's a month now. The minister well, we can't ask him to do much, because they must have depended on holding on and waiting to the commissioner. But they can't wait. This is the UNC is playing the game of the PNM. This is not what we elect them for. They would not be able to answer the PNM if they behave like the PNM. They have to behave differently. And all this thing they're talking about, looking after crime, and you see, something I'm writing this, Gary, and I didn't finish it yet because I didn't do any work on it today. I did something for Dr. Stephen Rupchan. Is that I always mix up his name. Ramu, sorry. I sent something to him today, and because the attachment he said send it. I don't know if he's here tonight yet, but
He will join us. He will join us in the meeting. He will join us later.
yeah, okay. So I cannot. I was doing a little bit of work on what he sent. I just doing a little thing and I send it back to him. Maybe and he like he's put an input into it. But so I want to finish. So here's the deal. The we every murder happened since the 29th, and all crime or felonies that happened since the 28th of April, they are going to pin it on the UNC. And the UNC could try to wiggle out of this, and they could very well say that that's the groundwork laid by the PNM. The PNM could use that against them, but they cannot use it against the PNM. The PNM has their way of getting it onto the people with those kinds of allegations, like corruption of the UN, the people partnership government, like corruption in the UNC, like they bring back a corruption guy to run the
Welcome,
NGC.
Dr. Ramro.
The
guys.
NGC. Hi.
I
Sorry. Let me just finish.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Raja. Dr.
Yeah.
Ramro just joined us. So go ahead.
Yeah, good, very good. Okay. So yeah, and last week I also said about police telling we don't have a vehicle, we don't have to go ahead, we'll come. When we get a vehicle, we'll come and investigate. This is passive policing. This is not aggressive or I think someone like to call it AI, using AI. AI technology is active policing. That is getting ahead of the crime before the crime get ahead of you. So what they're doing, they're waiting for the crime to happen, and they're going running down with a piece of paper in the hand, book and paper, trying to take notes and looking at gather evidence and trying to go to court, and they will lose the case anyway. This is not the kind of policing we have to have, that is required now. We have to have active policing, and if they want to bring this, they want to bring that, if you don't have that ground commitment to solve crime, you're not going to prevent crime, you're not going to solve crime. The police have to have some saying they overwork, they over this, they over that. Maybe they have, like last week I was saying, you have them all over the place. You have them in different offices. You have them in the commission office. You have them everywhere. You can have police back office work. Put them in the front. And that is what I'm writing about, to tell them, this is how you're going to do this damn thing, or else you're not going to get anywhere with it because the same old wouldn't happen. You cannot measure the UNC, the PNM had an SOE for about 6 months or 1 year, and police had some extra power that they when they stopped that, you're supposed to see a flare up in crime, which they stopped sometime a few months back, not long ago. So every crime that happened now, they're going to try to say it's the UNC responsibility, and they say they'll take care of it. Look what is happening. It continues unabated, and people are already starting to look back and say, you know what? This is you told us. Even though they didn't vote for the UNC, they will still hold the UNC for what they claimed they were going to do. So that little thing I'm trying to tell them aggressive policing is required. Be be in places where the crime is about to happen. Be in those places. Look, they held this person. They had this girl. There's some girl the other day, and they still can't find the girl as yet. They should be up and down. They shouldn't be talking about that. They should be up and down looking for this girl 24/7. All of them, no matter what branch or division you come from, all of them should be busy up and down the street all now, looking all over the place, looking all the leads, everything. Social media, using all the AI and all the things that you must drones. They have so they have drones and things. They have all kinds of stuff already. If you don't have an empathetic commitment to solve crime, you're not going to say this is not going to get better. This police commissioner have to come out and have a different. You cannot play the same old game. You come out of the balls of the movement and you're not showing any shifting. You're not because I came out of the movement. What I'm saying is that I'm not saying what they are saying. I'm saying something different. So the commissioner has to come out and he's taking too long, man. Last week I was telling you all that I think 4 months was too long for it to happen. And Gary saying, yeah, okay. I say, okay, good luck. Do your best and let's move on. Because I think everything is too tardy. They're going back again, and the NGC have a problem. Like they have the first chairman of the NGC, they put another one in. I want to get on with the work. I want to get work done. I don't want to get involved with this kind of nitty-gritty kind of this is pedestrian kind of thing I'm getting in myself too. I have no right to be talking about these kinds of things. That's what thing they should be talking about. I want to tell you how you could create productivity, how production could occur, how unemployment could fall, how we could challenge, and like last week I was saying, we're supposed to be the best in the Caribbean. We come like the Caribbean team. The Caribbean team going downhill. Trinidad is downhill, trying to match the cricket team that is going nowhere. Trinidad has lost its way. The UNC, they must come out and make these kinds of arguments. They have to be in the front. They cannot be behaving like the passive policing. We all respond to PNM. When PNM created trouble, they come out and responding. Be ahead of the PNM, man. I just don't want to talk to these people anymore because I feel like I'm seeing the same old shilling pain on the other side of the coin. So if you're not sure what shilling is, we used to call it shilling in our day. It is this UNC and this PNM seems to be like they're not, we cannot use the same failed methodology. We have to use a different methodology. Even arguing them with down right now, we're going down the hill. When we argue them, we're going back down with them. We have to leave them and let it fall on their own weight and let them wither and die in the vine. But we have to come up with new ideas and go forward. Like the NR was doing something in those days. I mean, you could have felt the ground shaking when they started to do things. They were doing things. People were getting angry because they're doing so many things. I don't know. I have hope that if we could give them let's wait for the 100 days, which is maybe perhaps another 10 days, and we could reason. Let us so that tomorrow, Monday morning, the commissioner come with a brand new tactics. Because if he just collected and the crime continues, what purpose are we putting these guys in there making a hullabaloo about we're doing something about crime? We put for the first time we put a real commissioner rather than a cowboy commissioner. We have a real okay, very good, clapping. But what we're not hearing on. At least say something. If you're not doing anything, say something. At least hold on to what you're saying. You're not saying anything. I think I'm not giving up, but I think they have to. They have a set of young people in there in this party who ministers, and they're not really pulling the weight at all. A few of them went and put on bucket and put on gloves and walk around. Okay, that's enough photo op. But in the end, it will catch up with you. The photo ops is going to run out. I hope it's not. I like the PNC. I think they are the best chance. They are the only chance rather. But I am not going to let sit down and Ed say anything or do anything if I can, whatever I can, to make sure that they succeed. And if I have to light a fire in the tail to get it going, like I'm doing now, until Alexander has to do better than that. I don't know what he's doing, but he has to do better than that. The commissioner definitely has to do better than that. So that is why I want to tell them, here's what you could do. And I call it the Carnival model of policing on a trial basis. They used to use works department vehicles to go around and different. If that be the case, instead of calling any state of emergency, don't call any state of emergency. Do the policing, the carnival policing thing, and and then how to do it. Then how to do it. Every uniform, khaki, gabardine, whatever they wear in khaki color, every man hit the street. Every officer, and the one from the back office, the one who had to take notes and prepare the canteen order, let him go out outside. They also 4 hours a day. If you can make it 4 hours a day and 4 hours in the office, do something different. You want the same old. You're not going to get anywhere. These criminals running rampant still, and then you make it. The PNM is making an excuse for them on behalf of the criminals, so they are irrelevant. The PNM have made themselves irrelevant. So let's bring in relevant people in the conversation, plus the UNC. And when I finish writing it, like Dr. Ramrup did, I would do the same thing when I write what I wrote, what I'm telling that commissioner. I will send it to you. I have a little draft on it, but I didn't do any work on it today. I went to Long Island, so I just came back about 2 hours ago. So I want to stop there, but when I finish writing, I want to show you guys, because I'm going to send it straight to the commissioner office and I see somebody again. Because see, that's why I'm putting it to you all, is does this carnival policing model to help with to arrest the crime, even in the short term, subject to be corrected in the long term? Doesn't this make kind of sense to you all? That's why I put it on this committee first, because I wanted to get a feedback. Does it make sense or doesn't make sense? Because it doesn't
I
make
mean,
sense.
Doc, I've been saying that for the longest. I said the same way that has come out for Carnival. Why
Yeah.
don't they maintain that? You see all the resources, and then when Carnival finish, we didn't have a vehicle. I mean, it's like the police have to brush your teeth and put on the pants before you come, and by the time the police reach, you're done dead. So that is why, we push for citizens to have the right to defend themselves, but at the same time, the self-defense, should be led by the TTPS. In that the TTPS needs to give guidance on citizens. We are not really, most of us are not really military trained people. Most of us are not really exposed to that kind of, experience and skills. So we would need some kind of guidance in utilizing. Welcome, Joyce. Let's see, Dr. Maraj, were you doctor at Southern Medical? No, he's not a medical doctor, Joyce. But
So Gary, if so, let us
so
look. I think
what I'm
what
saying to you, right? The whole idea of the citizens' self-defense has to be guided and directed by the TTPS. But we need the TTPS on board with citizens defending themselves. Not in a haphazard kind of way, but there must be guidance. Yes, we want citizens to defend themselves, but we want police and citizens to be working in collaboration. The community structure has to be rebuilt. There has to be
so let
between
me
the
ask you this.
council
The other
and
day, right? Hold on. The other day, 2 weeks back, I think someone and Dr. Stephen was saying that there is an average time when a call is made for an ambulance on arrival time. There is a model in place. How long does it take you, miles or whatever you had to work? There has to be some kind of expectation. Say it has to be within 7 minutes that ambulance has to reach, no matter where in the country you are. In the same way, can we say when a crime happens, let's call it a serious crime happens, an ordinary crime, a misdemeanor is fine, but a felony has been committed. How long does it take for police to arrive at the scene? Is it 10 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 seconds, 20 seconds? Or we never talk about depends and depends. Don't it not depend. Predictive analytics will tell you how long it will take you to get there. And if you don't get there, it explain why you didn't reach here in 8.5 minutes.
But Doc, there's a few ingredients you have to take into consideration, right? Number one, having the police enough staffing there to respond, having a vehicle, depends on road conditions because the road is in Trinidad is like you're going down into a lake before you get down, so the police can't really rush, even though they may try to rush in some areas. So the time until we fix the roads, then we could improve the
Right,
response. But what I'm
right,
saying to you, the overall
right.
response, right? This is what I'm proposing here, and I've been saying it for more than 10 years or more. The community, together with the local minister, the police in the jurisdiction there, the councillors. I've seen councillors previously go out there and parade about crime, but they didn't help put anything together. So we need a because you are the elected official. Anytime they can Harry can just jump in and say we're doing this, right? I mean, people can put something together in a street. But what I'm saying to you is the municipal councillors, the MP, have to engage the municipal police, the regional jurisdictional police there, to work together with the citizens so that in collaboration with the police, the citizens are also watching. We're not saying that citizens should engage, but by watching, you could help the police to intercept and you make that call. Now, it depends on the police response time to stop the criminal. Our first objective, number one, has to be to intercept and prevent that crime. When the crime don't happen, I like to use, I have a how to say, a philosophy that I would reiterate is that justice does not resurrect the dead, right? So we must work harder on the preventative. We need to build out the preventative structure by engaging community, the police, and the politicians, that we all working together. You could build a community watch thing that works in collaboration with police, but then you need police officers that are
Right.
trusted, not
Yes, you
betraying
see,
your
you
trust.
see what you're saying there, Gary? What you're saying there is below my pay grade. I'm not in that level. That's just for them fellas to do. My level is to identify the broad parameters and let them work out in the degree. Okay, okay, we could do it. Because Professor Maharaj, we can do that.
You can't.
But
You
here is the
can't.
problem:
You can't.
we don't have vehicles, and okay, that is for you to solve. Okay, now you're talking about money now, but you have to define what the problem really is. We are everybody all over the place. What is the real problem? What is your achievement? What are you trying to? Okay, you're trying to keep the public safe. We are not doing a good job at it. The crime is still continuing. So we know what the problem now is. We have to
Yeah, but
arrest
it
that
can't.
crime.
It can't be police alone.
Can
It can't
we
be.
can we
It
find a
cannot be police
model
alone.
that we can do? Because in nitty-gritty, you're talking about getting vehicle, and that's below my grade. I'm not in that pay grade. That's what the commission on them. I am at the level of policy making and looking at the overall picture, and they had to find the solution because they are the expert, not me. They have to come with what we want. What does the
But this is
directorate
common,
want?
Dr.
What,
Maharaj.
what
This
does
is
the
common
minister
sense.
want? What does the
This is
government
not
want? The
This has
police
to do
have
with
to
rocket
know what
science.
the quiet, quiet, quiet. The police have to know what the government require. The police have to know what their bosses require, and they have to fit the program to suit it. And there's where you would come in, Gary, and make all these suggestions. Right now, the past government is saying something, and this present government is not doing anything or showing them what they're doing. Talk, 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 talk. And I'm telling you, I started this discussion by saying at every felony that happens, it will be nailed on on the UNC, even though they met a faulty system and they're trying to correct it. They have to take front. They have to be ahead of the game. They cannot be reactive. They have to be aggressive. The same way the policing has to be aggressive using predictive analytics. They have to say what the problem is. We're trying to justify why they're not solving the crime. They must come out and tell us why they're not solving the crime. That is why the commissioner has come out with what his plan is. He had to define what the issues are first. What is the stumbling block? What is preventing them from doing A, B, and C? And then they could go to the director and say, if you give us X, Y, and Z, we'll be able to do A, B, and C. So then they put it back to the directorate. And this is why I'm at the directorate level. I understand what you're saying, Gary, and I understand. I know you must have been saying this a million times. What I'm saying here is not strange either, but it is not being in the forefront. We seen a lot of stuff that is going on, and they had to come out and say, look, is either they say, look, we just unearthing a lot of things, and pretty soon we'll be out there and we get in there. The population rest assured that we are doing A, B, and C, and therefore the results will be soon. We have commanded the commissioner to do X, Y, and Z, and the commissioner is coming back to tell us, which I hope they have already done. Just like how we're discovering now they don't get a committee to talk about refinery, and they've been talking about floating the refinery over a year now. But they now have a committee, and the committee said they need 4 months. And then and in between the committee is saying, well, okay, we will determine whether we should. They can't determine whether you already said you're going to open it. Hell and high waters, what you're going to determine anymore. So what I'm saying, Gary, is they have this is not a good job they are doing. The UNC. They have
Well,
to,
Doc,
they have to up the
I
game.
think you're making
Have
that
to up the
statement based
game.
on
That's all I'm saying. Okay,
you
good. Go
don't
ahead.
know you don't know all the facts, so you can't make a statement
I
about that.
don't need any
So
facts. I don't need any
let's
facts.
leave the
They
refinery
have
for
the
a second
facts.
here. Let's leave
They
the
have the facts. Let them work it out. I'm laying the broad parameters, trying to answer what the other side is saying and what they go take the ball and run with it. I'm trying to answer the other side. So the facts is fine. They're supposed to have the facts. Okay, go ahead.
So unless I don't care the greatest police force, I'm telling you, the nature of situation in Trinidad, the greatest police force with the best sheriff cannot alone fight the situation. We need a collaboration where the community must be organized, the police must participate and lead, and there has to be complete collaboration with the communication, the patrolling. The patrolling cannot be totally up to the police because we could never have enough manpower because of the nature of the situation there. So the more eyes we have, we're not asking people to run after criminal. What we're asking people is to observe, number one, and report. So we keep in the information, and that information, when you send that information in, that information has been fed into the system. So the officers who on patrol must know of their what is suspected, what was seen, and then they can follow through and look into it. But what I'm saying to you is here we cannot depend on 4 policemen in a town on patrol and maybe 1 or 2 cars if they have that much, right? The response, the police can't be everywhere. You don't have enough manpower for that, number one, right? So their high citizens have to seek their interests. They have to understand that they're seeking their interests, and they have to be educated on how to participate. You cannot do things helter skelter. You have to organize communication. We just spend large money on all different things. Most of us, most people, you see nowadays are buying a little security camera, whether it's a two-camera system or whatever, that they're trying to put something around their place. But it has to be a system where you're working with the people, you're educating the people, you're looking at the environment, you're giving advice on what you think should be done to help make yourself safer, because we all have to participate with the understanding that we all seek in our own interest by participating. We have failed. I have seen more parades within the years of complaining and blame for crime, but we don't build on that. When the people come out to support the protest, get the numbers, exchange numbers, with your street, your neighbors, and whatever it is. Organize a system where, I mean, some people they have taken some advice over the years. They have little WhatsApp group, they have a little thing going, but so when the citizen makes an observation, the backup is needed to be effective, and this is what we still don't have. We also are dealing with a situation where officers are within the system undermining the system. So the job of the commissioner, this is where you talk, this is where you come in now. The job of the police commissioner is to make sure that he has staff that is doing their job and doing it with some sense of integrity also. That you don't have the wrong people. He has to flush out those that are the problem in within his force, his troops. He has to make sure the troops are deployed properly. He has to make sure they're fully equipped. Yeah, whether it's communication vehicle or whatever it is. I mean, you've been on the force, you know what's needed, but what is needed in your time and now is a totally different thing. We need much more. Long time you could have walked with a baton, and that was good enough. But today we are dealing with more issues. Dr. Ramroop, uh, NOC
Yes.
comes in later on this, you know. But the
uh,
basics, we have to build the basics, Dr. Ramroop.
uh, it's sometimes amazing how human beings think, huh? And the answers are right there in front of them. But sometimes it's just how we, I guess, how we look at things and where we are. I mean, if you, it's not rocket science. If you go to any one of the scientific journals on crime, right, and criminal justice, and you look at countries of the world, in developed countries, developing countries, and a lot of people are grappling with homeland security issues. We have border security, and the prime minister has taken advice and she has separated both ministries. Unfortunately, she has put back one of the ministers from border security and bring him back in homeland security. So in a sense, it's the same ministry with two ministers. But anyway, it's separated for a reason, because I worked in that Ministry of National Security. It's very bureaucratic. Processes are very, 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 very complicated and chaotic. So having both ministries, I'm hoping that within a few months' time they can separate the duties and responsibilities of the people in the ministry. And as we had the discussion with Sumant, there's an element of a management. There's an element of the business approach to crime, right? In other words, then the commissioner of police has to be almost like a CEO, and crime has to be like a business dealing with crime. That is, you see. So once that philosophy, that dogma is sold to the public and saying, "Look, guys, we're gonna make this a business, right? We're gonna have performance indicators in each area of the whole umbrella of what we're looking at." And this is where we're talking about. You're talking about a whole of country approach. So when we talk about NOC, NOC is like a brain. If you don't have your brain, right, you don't know what is going on. When you're asleep and your kidney is functioning, and you just drank some coffee before you went to bed or whatever, the stomach is still working, but the brain is monitoring and has a 24-hour situational awareness, so that if something happens in Cedrus, if something happens in Carcass, if something happens in your little toe, if something happens in a little part of your liver, the brain knows, because it has these feedback mechanisms that comes back into the brain for the brain to analyze whether or not it needs to take control or the liver can do the job itself. You see? So if you put that into a nation, right, it's a comprehensive analysis of what that nation has to do. You have to have 24-hour situational awareness. That's the NOC. You have to ensure now that your feedback mechanisms in all aspects of crime come back, from white collar crime to somebody driving on the side of the road, breaking the traffic laws and driving on the shoulder, to somebody thieving and stealing in a store, to the pickpockets, to the guys going down, in a man who work whole months and putting chemicals in his garden and stealing his avocados and going on the road to sell it. You see, all of these are crimes that are happening. So what we have to do now is, as you say, there are many examples. I went to Cuba, right, on behalf of the government of Cuba and our government, and I saw what they did in Cuba. Of course, the governance system is a little different, but they had these what we call early warning points. These are community members where they give them these cheap radios, right? And each one of the communities, right, these people get together either virtually or physically once a week, and in little rooms there. If you see where they meet, under little community centers and whatever, right? An ex-school teacher, an ex-nurse, an ex-principal, people in the villages who actually had some sort of public service, ex-firemen, and they'll be given these little radios, you see. And if
Not sure if
anybody,
Dr. Ramroop.
if any, if anybody comes in that area in the middle of the night, or if anybody's strange, or they see a kid, if a car chasing somebody, or somebody dealing with drugs on the corner, they will report that back to a central command. It works for disasters, it works for everything. You understand? And they link up to each other with these little radios with little short distances. Now this is something that you are talking about, Gary. So community
So yeah,
policing
the
is
community. This is the community
this
structure
so
part.
so so this is like your
Feeding the
fingers.
information.
This is what I'm trying to say. Your body, your human body, right? Your anatomy and physiology is built that way. It gives you what is called the early warning signs. So this lady who got kidnapped, right? There are certain things she did. Somebody actually used blue lights, stop in front of her, right? Kidnapped her, move her with a vehicle, right, and carry her. And what we are saying is that in this day and age, right, we have cameras on poles, right? We have drones. We have, we have military people in their barracks, right? And in a small country with a geography where you could actually walk this country in a couple of days, each 20 to 100 kilometers, right, each 20 kilometers or 10 kilometers, you could have these vehicles that I saw in Singapore, complete with washrooms, toilet, everything, with military personnel operating drones, right, on all our coastlines, so that we are monitoring people coming in, weapons coming in. These things are not rocket science. These things have to be done. So border control cuts down the amount of drugs and things coming in, and then Homeland Security deals with what is here by creating this same thing like the body. Everything that happens in the human body, whether you sleep or not, right, that has to be picked up. So it will take some time, but as Dr. Maraj is saying, when you come and you say change is coming, change is coming, change is coming. What you have to, we know that you can't tell people everything, but this is not rocket science. What change is going to be so drastic that you could change the way when a man comes home and sees his wife with another a man in the house, and he takes a cutlass and chops off the wife's head, right? Or the other way around, what happens, and she poisons him. These are domestic crimes. The police commissioner wouldn't be able to deal with this. No government can deal with these domestic crimes. A man takes a knife and slits his wife or his child's. This is another aspect of crime we have to deal with, right? When we talk about children with single parents, right, who are not going to school. When you drive in some of these areas, you see like a middle of the day when school is going on at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, a lot of young people sitting next to standpipe or sitting down under mango trees and liming. Why it is that there's a law in Trinidad and Tobago that if you're a certain age, you have to be in a school. You see, so enforcement of all of these things have to be done. If you have single mothers without employment and children who are living in homes where the mother now has to go to the father of three different children, three different fathers to get money, all of these people have to get social services like in other developed countries where social services go in and take control of the children and move them away from this situation. This is not happening in Trinidad and Tobago. So you see, when you talk about crime and what we need to deal with crime, it is as a whole of country, whole of government thing. Social services have to beef up all of these children who are homeless, all of these children who have single parents, all of these children who are in homes where the mother is or the father is unemployed. Right, these children have to be removed from those homes until these people get gainful employment or gainful revenue, because the children are affected. And we have to start from these age groups, because these in 5 or 10 years time are going to be the criminals. So yes, we are all correct, but the point is that they have to come now and said, okay, this is the dashboard. We have 15 elements of crime. The commissioner of police is the CEO. We are treating this like a business, right? So you have pre-jail larceny, you have social services, you have community policing, you have the criminal justice, where when they finish, we're going to hang them, or we're going to do this, or we're going to let them go to Mayaro, chain all of them, and let them clean the beach. You know what I mean? So what are we going to do? How are we going to get that? How are we going to deal with recidivism, repeat crimes and all of these things? So it's a holistic approach. And we need to now show the nation that, okay, this is the 20 or 25 elements of crime. This is the pillars that we are. These are the performance indicators these are the responsibilities of the Ministry of Social Services, the Ministry of Education, to start education in the schools. I mean, look at shooting in the United States. You think that with guns now that we're going to be having there, where everybody's going to be having guns, you think that somebody who has a mental problem, his father has a gun and didn't secure the gun, wouldn't take it and go to a school and start shooting? So in other words, and it also brings other aspects of it when you start dealing with it, now that you're bringing other modalities of fighting crime. So crime is not, listen, it's a business. And if we start going back to the ministry where you're dealing with public servants who don't have any management skills, no, they are not CEOs or commissioner of police, needs to have management skills, because he has to deal it has to work like a business. It's almost like the police commissioner should have a board of directors, right? A board of directors that runs the police service rather than just the commissioner alone. right? I mean, yes, you have the other agents to choose the commissioner, but we don't have like a board of directors for the commissioner. You have all these deputy commissioners, but they are not managers. These Some of them went to secondary school and they didn't go beyond that, and they are deputy commissioners or whatever. Some of them have had training in management, but we need to have this managed like a board. We need to change the whole concept of crime. That's what Mr. Maraj is saying. The policy of how we're going to deal with it. So that's my take on it. I'm not an expert in crime, but I do have a master's in forensic medicine. When we did that, right, there are a lot of aspects that we're talking about here that has come to bear because those are things that I had to do when I was doing my papers. You understand? So I sat on the National Security Council for 6 years when I was an ODPM. So I do have an idea of some of the discussions taking place at that level. And that's another level that we have to look at in terms of management of crime. This is where the National Security Council has another role to play, right? In terms of what they can tell the nation or what they can't tell the nation using the National Security Council Secretariat and the joint and what is called the Joint Threat Assessment Group, right? This is the group that actually looks at our threat assessments on a daily basis and reports back to the National Security Council. That's another arm of national security that you don't
Use
hear about, you know. So
use
I also think that what you were saying, Gary, one of the things that they have to do is to bring back that tactical team. With the NOC, that's like what you used to have like called SORT, right? The country is divided up into 14 municipalities, as you were saying. There is absolutely no reason why we cannot have satellite when I say emit these response schemes, that is a mixture of trained personnel like Gary Griffith was
It
doing.
has to be decentralized. It has to be
Right. It
broken
has
up.
to be
It can't.
satellite.
Everything can be in
Right.
Chagaramas and
That's
Port of
correct. So
Spain.
when the react person, that's the guy with the ham radio, right, picks up something, right, and he sends it up the chain to the NOC. It means that a satellite team could come down there in a high powered, very, very quick vehicle and come down there, even if that kidnapping was reported 5 minutes after, within 7 minutes, as Mr. Dr. Maraj was talking about. There are metrics all over the world that we have to follow. We may not be able to get that 5 minutes, 10 minutes response from the tactical team yet, but we will start trying. And then once we have more skills and whatever, and you start arresting these people in the process of doing it, and people start seeing and you publicize it, and they come on the papers and you have the arrest and whatever, it's going to mitigate some of the crimes. Whilst the soldiers who are separated, who are actually on the borders of the country, instead of their barracks, right, and what they have in vehicles that has food, water, electricity, you switch them around ever so often. You call and you check them, and they send these drones out on the island, across the island, and you keep monitoring 24/7, which is being watched by some young people, right, who we hired in a NOC, watching these drone pictures 24/7, picking up whatever is seen because they're not going to be sleeping. That is their job. About 50 people watching these cameras day and night on shift basis, signing this disclaimer that they can't release this information. We will start making this country like a human body, where we will start picking up all the signals from outside. Yes, if you want to deal with crime and you want to show the nation, that's what I suggest.
But simultaneously, Dr. Rambo, what I'm saying on the community level, we need to build an infrastructure in a similar fashion where we all realize the fact that how important it is for us to participate in this, and that I would between 2010 and 2015 I was proposing a national security neighborhood watch program, which would have been broken down
Remember
into
we
the
talked about one of the things I talked about is the ability of the brain to pick up what happens in the toenail in the middle of the night while you're sleeping.
right.
That's
So
what we're talking about.
this is the
The
toenail
answer
part
to
here.
that is your
Yeah.
community, right? I remember going to Canada, right? And we were in the back of a mall. They were opening one of the UNC activists there, one of the ladies, they were opening a restaurant. And we were in the back of the restaurant, right? And he offered me a Corona beer, right? And whilst just listen, we were now going to drink this beer, and all of a sudden, right? All of a sudden, we started to hear squad cars. We had to throw away the beer. Somebody in that neighborhood reported us drinking the beer. You understand? And within about 5 minutes, squad cars came investigating because it's illegal to drink a beer outside, in an open bottle outside. It had to be covered up with a
In the
lid.
parks and stuff like that too.
That's correct. And it was amazing how fast it happened. And this is what you're talking about. So this is what I saw with my own eyes in Cuba, right? Where we had cheap little radios, where we gave these community people and we came and we trained them and they showed us how they trained them. So that if anything was happening in that area, they would report it and it will go right up back to that command center. Each command center was the command center in each one of the municipalities. You see? So this is something that has been done in Cuba, right? It can be done in Trinidad. The neighborhood watch groups that you're talking about, communication is very important.
That has to
And
be part
using
of the
cheap.
municipal government.
That's
Right?
correct. It has to be part of it. It is something that can be done. Cheap radios, when I tell you, cheap handheld radios means that you could warn your neighbor every 50 feet and say, hey, the flood water is rising. All you get the little child who
But
was disabled there and put
Dr.
them out.
Ramrock, we even have there's a program that I have introduced, and most people are not interested in using it, but it's an app on your phone called Zello.
Yes, I know. I use Zello. Zello is I
It's a
use Zello for
walkie-talkie app,
radio
right?
communication.
Even if you can't
Correct.
afford a walkie-talkie
I
and
have
television.
Zello on my phone. Whenever I have an event, recently we had a Rotary function in Port of Spain, a logistics function where we had vehicles and people coming from all over the Caribbean and whatever. I was in charge of that. We use Zello instead of having
Okay,
a radio. We use Zello, and I mean
on the phone.
it's something that can be done. So the thing
Right.
about it, what I'm saying is that this is what I think needs to be, as you say, strengthened, right? And it's not just for crime; it's for disaster management as well, right?
Everything.
Flooding, yes, so that you can warn somebody before in the village that hey, something is happening, and you can communicate. So when the first responders come to the village, they don't go to every house; they go to the house that has the victims who are affected more, such as disabled persons, old persons, people, single mothers, etc., etc. You see, so this is how the villages become resilient.
So the village
And
has to have
yeah,
their volunteer first responders until the
correct.
professional first responders get
Yes,
there.
because you have your town meetings ever so often. Another thing is having your town meetings. And in your town meetings, you have your police officers, you have your church leaders, you have your sports group people. So what they should do instead, well, I mean, Monday Night Forum is something nice, but what I'm trying to say is that what they need to do now is to have these town meetings. So rather than addressing the people and telling them what you're doing, have the town meetings where you bring the police, bring the fire services, bring the community leaders, give them the handheld radios, create your little teams and say, guys, you need to watch the disasters, watch the flooding, tell us about the weather, tell us about if you see a black car that's not supposed to be there, he's not in the village, and you see this black car, you could follow that black car by radio communication right through the village and see what that car is doing.
And take pictures and videos. If it turns out to be
Correct.
nothing, fine.
Correct.
If it turns out to be nothing, fine, they delete it. But
And
what I'm saying to you, in the meantime, share
this
it.
is the beauty of the human anatomy and physiology. The body knows everything that is going on. That is why we have survived as a species, and we can talk like this and create AI. So if we can mimic, I mean, I'm not saying we're going to be 100% efficiency, but with time, over time, Cuba has done this over the last 15 years, right? When they implemented it. And right now in Cuba, you cannot go to any village and nobody knows you're there. They know exactly who is the stranger in that village, who is the thief who comes from way up in Sangre Grande, because that is how the prisons, that is how the reports say. What they do is they come to your house and break into your house, but it's not the local guys arrange it with the guys who live in other areas in the jail, and they work it out from there, and then they come to your house. So normally it's not the guy around will be your burglars, it's the guy from the other village. So this is an international trend. It's not just unique to Trinidad and Tobago. These are things that people who are doing crime, who are studying crime, knows about it. You see, and once you have that border control, which Mr. Wayne Sturgis is now in charge of, and the military, let the military now protect our borders, create the points like the little point. Listen, you have to be drastic now. You have to cut down. You cannot have the whole of Mayaro and Manzanilla. I live there. There's no police presence. There's no military presence on that beach. There's nothing in Cedra. Sometimes Sikaka, only very rare. You'll see a Coast Guard vehicle just pass at a fixed time. What you have to have is have the military people set out in certain areas, right? Using these vehicles I told you about, self-sufficient, right? And you have the drones and they keep monitoring your coastline 24/7. We have a small coastline. We're not like United States of America or Canada or something. Our coastline is manageable. You understand? We should be able to send We should, if there's a kidnapping, if a kidnapping is reported by any person in that little system we talked about, right? We should be able to send drones not to the area where the kidnapping occurred. Maybe you could send a drone there, but what you have to do is you have to send the drones within a perimeter, right? That's the science. You don't just go to the area. 25 cars land up where they actually commit the crime,
Yeah, you're
right?
deployed within a radius.
You have to
The
start.
time frame,
You have to actually
estimate
start going
travel.
on the junctions and the borders around, so that when they exit your circle, you keep them within a circle. You have roadblocks in every single way outside. You have to run through the forest. You understand what I'm saying? So these are things that there has to be a science in policing. There has to be education. They have to be doing these drills regularly. You have to drill the young recruits, right? You have to show them the areas of high risk. You have to run them through. These are things that the police has to do, and again, it has to be run like a business.
Yes. If I may butt in a little bit.
Yes, of course.
Gary, in my estimation, the situation is getting out of hand very fast. You need to, come with some stringent measures, get all these people who on leave, sick leave and so on, incorporate the military, do whatever you have to do, and start to break the back of this thing. Because by the time we're waiting for policies, strategies, training, education of these trainees and so on, a year or two can very well pass. And the legislation, of course. What's going to happen in the next year or two? How can we circumvent the system is my plan. How can that happen? And we need to really incorporate and use the technology as quickly and as fast as we could, and then try to work backwards now to fill in the gaps stuck. Because there's a lot of things, right? But most importantly, if the heads of state, the heads of the police service and, Homeland Security and Justice Ministry, if they don't see it like that, what's going to happen? Who is going to initiate all that Dr. Ramos is saying, or Dr. Maharaj is saying, or what I am saying? If they are not thinking along those lines, then what's the solution? You see, when a crime is committed in New York, within 48 hours they catch a guy in LA. This is a big damn country with 360 million people. And you can literally catch a guy within 3 to 4 days, no matter where he is. They're using the technology for predicting. They're using the technology that uses the data. This is how they solve the crime. He must use a credit card. He must use a phone call. He must use something to travel. He must use a motor vehicle. That has a VIN number, a vehicle number in it. He must use a phone to make a call somewhere. He must use an ATM machine or pay for something with a credit card. All these are data that is collected. So if you don't incorporate in new ways of policing and trying to solve crime.
No, Mr. Singh, I understand that level of technology, but what I want to break it down to is the community structure.
It's not only technology, the community structure should be there as well. It's not one-sided. But what I'm saying, to arrest the situation, the rate at which the crime is occurring, you need something as a stopgap measure. Bring out all of them, as Dr. Ashwin Maharaj said, bring out the carnival mentality out, arrest the situation, and then start to work backwards. But that's only part of the solution. The major part is that you have to have the heads of these departments understand what you're doing. And if they are limited in any way, what's going to happen? You need to have the measurement tools.
They have to understand, and there cannot be ego. There cannot be ego with the police saying that this is a police operation alone. It's no police operation. It's a national operation. It's a country operation. All of us lives are in danger here.
Yes.
Right.
It is a whole of country whole of government approach. Each ministry has a role to play in crime. Police will lead the charge. Police are going to be arresting. Police will have to lead the tactical squads that are coming in. The community has you have your Ministry of Community Development. You have the Ministry of Social Services. You have the Ministry of Education dealing with shelters. Because when we're talking about security, we're talking about public safety as well. And public safety has a lot to do with disaster management. So the thing about it is that it's a holistic approach to keeping people safe, right,
Correct.
and
But
secure.
the movement on the ground within the local community should be tracked by the local citizen, feeding that information into the police.
Right, and as I said, it's satellite. I think that if they want to have an immediate impact on crime, have you ever seen the young soldiers, right, who sit in United States and manage computers? Some young soldiers who sit at the bases and run drones in certain areas, and the drones actually pick up activity and report back because the drones can
And
fly
the young
low and
people
avoid radar.
they are better than us with managing the drone. They could really
You understand?
maneuver it.
They could actually do interventions with the drones as well. So, in other words, and we have a lot of young people, right, who could be trained through the military system. A lot of the people can actually be trained to use these drones, and these drones can be in every single community, right?
At the
These drones are
shortest possible
silent,
time. At the
right? And
shortest
if
possible time.
you start doing surveillance of your communities and there are drones flying around in the night for our protection, right? Of course, there's going to be a lot of cabinet. The opposition will give things and say you're monitoring people's private security. But listen to me. If you want to do something drastic with the crime, it's a small country. We could cover every inch of this country with young people flying drones and young people looking at the camera system. People will start seeing things and people will start reporting them before the event happens. This is what we are talking about. To deal with crime, right, and some of these domestic violence and whatever, as I said, you might be able to see what is going on inside a house when a man kills
Domestic
his
violence
wife.
is something you have to handle in a different way,
Right.
right?
So that is different. But when you have people who are robbing places, who are actually kidnapping people, who are actually dumping victims and burying them in graves and whatever. I mean, places like Aruka and thing, they should have these drones flying around where people are burying people in these grounds where they have nobody. This is where they should have
But it
these
has a
drones
history
set up.
like a repo up there where they were
That's
dumping
correct.
ground.
So these are areas
Why
they
that
should
area
start.
wasn't under surveillance?
That's what I'm saying. These areas, you could have the drones. The drones are there. Civil aviation has to amend some of the laws because that was one of the key back before.
Okay, yes.
You
In
know,
fact, the lady who was recently kidnapped, I think they found her car up in Aruka, right?
that's what I'm saying. You see, so these are things that could be done quickly. If
So these
the
criminals
minister
are
is saying,
retrieving from where they're from.
yeah,
Right?
if the minister
Basically,
is
right?
saying that the change is happening and that this change is coming, and that is one of the interventions, then I'll be happy because I would love to know that in the middle of the night there are drones passing in my area, right, and they are checking to see if there are strange vehicles in my area. In addition to the community policing, where somebody coming home in the night and they see something, they report it back to one of these the early in Cuba we call them the early warning points. Early warning points are persons with the camera, with the radios, right? So you call Stephen Ramrup and he's an early warning point for the area of the area of Philippine San Fernando, Philippine, Debe. And you call me and you say, hey, I see a black car came into the area, not supposed to be there. That is strange. We notice it is just circling. I call that right up back to the NOC. It goes up to the NOC. The NOC now will have a tactical squad in San Fernando and they send up some drones if it's not in the area and they start tracking this vehicle. You understand? The lady who was kidnapped, she had to have a phone and that phone had to have three. You should have been able to triangulate that phone and you could have followed that phone right up until where she disappeared. So all of
just
these
like how we
things
found
can be
Woodward
done.
Sample.
Yeah. So these are things that I would really want to see happen quickly because you want to mitigate some of what is happening.
This
But
is
let me backtrack a little bit here, Dr. Rambo. Exactly what you're saying. I want to see some community in Trinidad participate in this idea. That we get people, there could be business people who will donate a drone for a community.
Of
Because
course,
it will help it benefit
this
them.
is big. Everybody is so worried about crime. People will come out and assist with these things. They will.
But we have to come together. We have to build that community structure.
And the community structure is already there because we have community groups in the country, and the Ministry of Community Development. That's a whole community run by that guild in Moruga Tableland. So the point about it is that what we have to do now is to strengthen the existing system. No need to reinvent the wheel. Start the government of Trinidad and Tobago, the political party of that government needs to go into these villages now and have the village or town meetings so that they can secure the 2030 election. So they can start using that as an election ploy where they can bring the community. So instead of having the fora that they're having on the Monday night, they could start going into each one of the communities, particularly in the high-risk areas where crime is very, very high, and start introducing these little technology, the drones, getting some of the community young people who are unemployed, right, to teach them and train them and how to run these drones and whatever, you know what I mean? You see, this is what you're saying, Gary. The feedback mechanism is what I'm talking about in the human body. If you can have every aspect of that feedback mechanism, from Port Authority looking at things on the ships, from the Airports Authority picking up people coming in who are illegal, from the drones by the military people on the coastline looking at drug trafficking, human trafficking, guns coming into the country, and we could cut down that. Once all of these begin to operate simultaneously, there will be a reduction in crime.
Doc, I have done some work on that area. I can send the file to you.
Yeah, I have it also. You
have
can
it, right? The focus
Yeah.
was on using
Yeah.
the
But that on the national security level, I think it is very absolutely necessary that we start building off on the community level, because there's where we're going to see the real impact. I mean, the objective is to protect the lives of our local citizens and ourselves, because we are working in collaboration with protecting each other. And you could have a 10 feet wall there, you have to come out those 10 feet walls, and so the community patrolling, community-based. I'm not talking about community policing. That's a different thing. That belongs to the municipal police. But I'm talking about community patrolling, where the citizens are working in collaboration with the local municipality, not just the police alone. You have police alone, a police alone operation. It has to be, because we have too many issues going on. And these guys, I mean, some of these guys move, in quite a large number. They can move 5 or 6 of them, come into your house. In some instances, they're using children to take pictures and analyze the situation and feed them back. And you might see a child walking with a phone and you think nothing of it, but they're feeding back that information. Yeah. And they have local gangs.
So I agree. I think that one of the things, as I mentioned, is that some of the policy changes I really hope, I'm suggesting, is in keeping with what Dr. Maraj is saying. The policy changes would guide implementation of, in all aspects, in all parts of that dashboard, all parts of that strategic plan. 1, you have to treat crime like a business. 2, you have to train all the key deputy commissioners, all the key managers of the whole criminal justice system in that business process. 3, I think that some legislation has to be done to look at the use of drones. Secondly, by the involvement of civilians, right, in terms of either monitoring the cameras, flying some of the drones in the communities, right. The civil aviation has to amend some of the regulations in terms of drones, right, and the use of drones in terms of public, use of public, how where they fly, how low they fly, what time they fly, all of these things. These things, I think, is they're parts of the legislation. So there are legislative changes that would need to be amended. I mean, they're talking about gun use and whatever. That's one, but that is not going to be the only way to deal with the crime. These are some of the policy dogmatic or philosophical changes that will have to be made to make an impact in the crime, because it'll be same old, and after 5 years you'll end up with your statistics which are similar to what the PNM had. So there's nothing that you're going to be boasting off at the end of 5 years and saying, well, look, I still have the same amount of murders, right? So therefore, with people coming back from the United States, where they're sending some of them back now, all of these things, we have the Venezuelans who are coming in with their gangs, right? That is another aspect, another type of crime that we're looking at. And there's never going to change. There's always going to be a problem. There's gangs in terms of the whole situation with gangs. The illegal drug trade is causing a lot of these kidnappings and persons who either are laundering the money or so there are a lot of problems within that whole illegal drug trade. Some people are being kidnapped, some people are being killed, right, because of that. But there are reasons for it. It doesn't happen in isolation. People don't just go and kidnap somebody out of the blues, and not ask for ransom. There are things that are going on. So a certain amount of that. The DNA legislation, I think that I personally feel in such a small country, every single criminal who have been arrested by the police should have DNA testing, and that should be mandatory. Right? At this stage, I think they should be DNA tested. They shouldn't have no option. If they have an option and there is any way that it doesn't get passed and they have an option, and then touch DNA is there, right? They must drink something in the police station and throw away the cup and you can get the DNA, right? So the point about it is that you give them a cigarette to smoke and you get the DNA. I mean, this thing's, this is not rocket science, and you can start building up your local DNA database. Understand? So, I mean, these are things. Then the other thing is in terms of your immigration, right? The forms that we fill out, most of these forms are in boxes. So they should start getting the electronic registration now in terms of coming into the country and going out of the country. So everybody who signs the electronic form, it goes into a database and they begin to start analyzing and use the damn data. I mean, Sumant, you had the same problem, remember? So the thing about it is unless we don't start that electronic thing and start going into a central database, that central database also has to be analyzed by data people who are trained in data analysis, right? And data storage, data management, data warehousing,
science of the data science.
That's what I'm saying. And data trending. And these people have to now provide the relevant data. Police cannot say this is police. I remember when I was on the Airports Authority board, we had the same problem. Yeah. Right? In the same Airports Authority, we had airport security and police, and they were not sharing information with each other because one felt that they had more high-level authority or I don't know what it was in terms of security and intelligence, and the other one was not privy to it. And it was 2 or 3 set of people in the airport, all surveilling and non-sharing information.
Doc, we, as a group here, I'm sure we have more than 80 or 90% of the solutions here with us to help alleviate the criminal.
I was in charge I was in charge of the committee.
Yeah.
I was the chairman of the committee for security and operations of the Airports Authority for 6.5 years.
I remember that. I know that. You came to Tobago a couple of times.
I am the one who developed the operations plan that the Airports Authority is currently using.
Yeah, but the thing is, who is listening to us? Who is going to implement this? You know what?
Listen to the statement. Situation. Listen, guys. Listen to the statement of the Minister of National Security. He went to Jamaica, right? And he said he learned some stuff, right? He learned some stuff, but we tried to share some stuff with him that he's not paying attention to.
This is the point.
I don't know if he's paying attention.
We are
right?
talking.
We're giving him that before he gone to Jamaica. All right? And what we're giving him is better what Jamaica have.
But this is the point, Gary. Who is listening to what we are saying? Unless you get that mass, I don't know how to say it, but acceptance. The general public can assist you to solve the crime. We can assist you as well. The technologists, the AI, the scientists can tell you as well. Dr. Ramos is not a one-person group, but they think it's a one-person group or a 2-person ministry group. Every single ministry has or should have an input into it. At the present time, you have to arrest the situation. And how do you arrest it? It's like you're running a business like Amazon, and your sales are slowing down big time. Well, how can you circumvent this? You run a sale or something like that. And this is what we need to do with the police service. Something to circumvent the system. And how do you do that? With smart policing. That is a quick win, short time, 3 months time to get it going. You do it on pickpockets, pilot projects, here and there, on all aspects of it. And then you work backwards now and then involve the Ministry of Education, the Social Services Department, blah, blah, blah. But you cannot do it in a step-by-step basis. You have to go up to the front, at the very front, and work backwards. And this is why the business engineering side of crime has to be done first. Because by the time you try to solve crime, 5 years have gone. And you end up with the same results. You know, it's a business engineering process to solve crime.
Yeah, I fully agree. And that will be in keeping with what Sumant is saying, Dr. Maraj is saying, as well as you, Gary. In other words, then part of that whole business
what we
process,
consider the low hanging fruit. Let's use the things that we have before we go into the scientific.
I would say that the low hanging fruit is, you see, the community involvement in terms of, you see, I keep saying, I've been a physician, right? Since 1980, I graduated from UWI, but I didn't just study medicine. I learned medicine. A lot of people study and they don't learn, right? They can regurgitate what they read, but they don't learn. I took my time and I understood my physiology and anatomy. The human being is a magnificent, beautiful creation by God. It's a beautiful creation. If you look at how a baby is born and the processes that go right 99% of the time, you will have to understand that this world, this experience, this existence that we are in, it means much more, and there's more to it, right? So whilst we are here, if we can just adapt and try to copy some of what this human body brings, the biggest help to the human being is if it can identify the problems that are beginning to occur. That's why pain came in as a phenomena, so that when you begin to have pain, you understand something is happening, right? If you have weakness and other signs, you know something is happening. So your community, your individual, your single dwelling, the person, the citizen and resident of your country becomes your eyes and ears. So the biggest and strongest benefit in terms of going towards crime, Gary, is exactly what we're talking about. Your feedback mechanism from every aspect of your community. Now, don't misunderstand, my definition of community doesn't mean just the village and whatever. Your community could be your business community. Your community could be your education committee, your fire service. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Sports club,
your communities,
organization.
that's correct. Your communities are all the key and relevant stakeholders, right? That crime affects. Crime affects tourism. Crime affects your businesses, your small business. These people have groups, they have chambers and whatever. So all of these communities have to come together in that village meeting, because the fundamental element of the human body is the cell, right? And therefore the fundamental element of a nation is the person, the individual who lives in that nation. The individual is like the cell. So if the individual is resilient, and if the individual and his villagers can get together and warn the government through the NOC, right, that something is happening in their village via the mechanisms that we just described, it means that we are able now to intercept and intervene faster, because we are getting the messages early, just like the human body.
Correct. And they must follow the principle, the C-cube principle: communication, command, and control. Once you have those elements covered within this system, you can prioritize things in a quick way. And you fill out the dashboard, so to speak, and you know where the pain points are.
And it also optimizes your resources.
In
other words, and if you have a municipality with 3 police stations and nothing is happening in 2, and something is happening in 1, you could move some of the resources who are sitting down making a cook with curry duck in the back of the police station in 1, and move them to that area, right? You could move somebody who is doing 7 o'clock road testing the speed on the highway at 7 o'clock in the morning when we have traffic, right? So you're testing traffic in the morning when they could be doing something else, because there's other things going on, like pre-deal larceny, because the young boys coming out 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning to steal the fruits. You know what I mean? So you could optimize resources.
the thing is that we all know to a large extent what needs to be done, all of us, but I don't think those in authority or whoever it is are listening. One, if they're listening,
within the next 3 months, we should be able to put
if they
something together.
if they're not listening, at least if they're hearing, just hear at least, so they can start to change their way of thinking or addressing the problem, man. Because the way things going, and I was making the point to Dr. Ashford Maharaj just now, is that the leader of the opposition is saying, with all the crap she's talking, that, you know what, with CPEP and URP being subjected to, a lot of these workers are out on the breadline now, you should expect, a lot more criminal activity. And how can we shut her up? How can we not make this possible? This is the job of the UNC to solve this problem. Because Dr. Maharaj said quite rightly, every crime that has happened after the 28th of April, they're going to pin it against you. They're going to put it against you, meaning the UNC. Whether it's their fault or not. And most important, I know, the UNC campaigned on this policy on crime. They knew they should have their act together long before they won the election. They should be on the front burner within 10, 20, 30 days. This is what you're going to introduce and communicate with public. You can't wait 2 months, 3 months, 4 months gone. Next thing, a year gone on. No, there's legislation to be, communicated. Legislation has to be passed. Funds have to be allocated, and we know that these are the operational side of things, right? But in the very, very short term, they should have had some things in place, at least how they're going about to address the crime situation.
I just hope that they I've been begging for them to meet with me for like 15 minutes virtually or by Zoom.
This bugs me. This bugs me personally.
I wanted to talk to them about how I would like to see basically what were the conceptual design of the NOC. I was part of the concept design and what it was supposed to be. I would like to know what it is, and maybe I can share some of my thoughts on how it should be, but nobody really is taking me on it.
This is the point, Doctor. How much does it take to have drones crisscross 24/7 certain hotspot areas in Trinidad?
And like I like to say again, is I know for a fact that some business people will contribute to
of course
a drone to the community.
Even communities, Gary. I'm sure certain communities may be willing to contribute 4 and 5 drones as well.
So if we could lock down the community, we leave certain things to the government on the external border, but far as the community-based patrolling is something I want to see up and running. I think we could create some restraint there with our surveillance, monitoring, patrolling, citizen volunteer, and the backup will be needed from the TPS, where we put the monkey in the back of the TTPS with their response. Their response time, they have to fulfill that. But we have to come together, but we are doing enough surveillance and patrolling of our own because it's in our interests. That's the way I think we should go about it.
One of the things that you have to understand, the opposition is going to kick off first as one. 2, the police will kick off first because they still think that everything in terms of crime is in their domain.
Yep.
So the third thing that is
because they've been conditioned to think like that, but we have to break that off.
Right. Yes. That is what if the minister really wants to change it, he has to change that status quo. They have to understand that crime is a whole of country, whole of government issue, right? And unless that philosophy is not sold, and the police think that they are the dominant and only people that will have to deal with crime, right? I mean, I know for a fact, when the Minister of National Security was a soldier, right? I worked in the ministry on the ground, right? During the World Cup cricket, during Summit of Americas and Shogam. and police officers were very angry at the fact that that the soldiers were involved in policing. Okay, so the thing about it is that that is something that I know for a fact because I worked with the police on the ground, right? When we were dealing with the
And the fact is,
whole Shogam and Summit.
they cannot control it.
So-
All they could do is come and take a report when the crime when you're dead.
That
Yeah,
philosophy has to change. The next thing,
react-
All right. So
That
this
is-
is a matter of life and death.
yeah.
So you give it sole authority.
What I'm saying,
and no one
Gary,
has
is that-
any say. Is not
Correct.
going to float.
Correct. The other thing that we have to look at now is your communities. You will have community activists, although they're affected by crime, they're going to come out and say that how you could have people looking at our privacy in the middle of the night. Right now, this is something global. This is happening in many countries that
All
have
over.
implemented the
Yep.
drone surveillance system. Right, and what I'm trying to say now is they will go to court and they will have lawyers now will come out and say, oh, why it is that I have a drone flying across my house in the middle of the night and monitoring my privacy. I have to have certain types of privacy. There are privacy issues. So what I'm trying to say now is that this is not something that we are inventing. This is something that's happened in other countries when they try, even the United States of America, right?
Big
And
time, big time.
so what they have to do now, they have to look at the studies that have been done on the community. They have to begin to mitigate that by their own battery of lawyers, because if we are going to deal with crime, we're going to have to make some drastic decisions. Let them fight it out in court. Let it go to court and use your justice system to try to to deal with it over months and years and whatever. But in the interim, right, get it done. So what you can do now is that you can develop your you have the time to develop your legislation is now, because you have a parliamentary majority. You have the Senate is okay. The point about it is that because on the remit that you are going to be dealing with crime, there are certain things that you need to, in a previous conversation, is that the UNC needs to now stop answering to every single objection that they have. They need to stop fighting an election and say, look, we have won now, just like the PNM did. One minister actually come out and say, we win now, so let us, all you lose. This is why we'll have to put down our foot, right, or feet, as it were, and try to do certain things in a way. Of course, it's not going to be drastically affecting our communities, but in a sense, in a way that we are able to monitor. And you have to market this. You have to have people who are trained, university degrees in marketing. Don't put people in boards who are, because they are a doctor or a nurse or whatever, they are fit for the board. No, try to put people on boards who are competent and capable and trained in certain areas, right? University trained in marketing and branding, so that you can sell an idea. There was a time when people used to come to my parents' home and sell a whole set of encyclopedia, which we didn't need. They had people selling vacuum cleaners all over the country, and people were buying vacuum cleaners. So people can sell almost anything. So we have to have a whole scientific team, a marketing team that is able to counteract the discussions that are going to be happening when you begin to surveil our country in a comprehensive manner. Look at our country, so small, Gary. We could fit into the New York State. We could fit into one of the states in Canada by 10 times.
Not
The
only
point about
state,
it is that
in the borough of New York City, we have
Yeah.
5 boroughs, right?
Yes.
we could do that. And you know what amazes me, Dr.
Brooklyn
Maraj?
alone
Dr.
by
Maraj.
size at Queens.
Yes. You know what amazes me? I was in Canada a few years ago, and one of my relatives, right, he had a fight in one of the bars, right, about and he's a little violent young man. And what happened is that he had to go to court, right? We were going to Buffalo for a little shopping spree, and he accompanied us. And when he reached the border, they turned him back because that court case came up, right? And this is Canada I'm talking about, crossing the U.S. border. They
Yeah.
picked it up in the U.S. because the border was sharing information with the Canadian and the United States. And they didn't let him go to the U.S. because that court case came up in Canada. Now, we have people here who go to court and whatever, and people flying out of here willy-nilly all over the place. And our country is such a small country. See? So this data sharing is something that it has to be a government policy now. We had a problem when I was in ODPM in 2011 to 2016. We had a study done, as I told you all. We met in K-Pop. We actually discovered that we have a data problem in Trinidad and Tobago. We are not sharing data to relevant data sharing. And everybody's keeping data in silo. And if we don't try to solve that problem by legislation this time around, we're going to be spinning top in mud.
But isn't that why Homeland Security was created, the concept of Homeland Security? Because, George Bush created Homeland Security because the FBI and the CIA and the various agencies of the United States wasn't sharing information. And that created a problem. So Homeland Security was created to bring the agencies together where there was intelligence sharing.
Yes, but what Doc is saying, I totally agree. I had the same problem as I mentioned to you before. All international arrivals into Tobago, I was director of tourism. I have to plan airline routes and so on, sign contract with airlines from Europe flying into Tobago. And I cannot don't know what. The immigration will not share that information with me to tell me how many people from England came into the island in this particular flight. I got that information 2 years after. From immigration, sent the Ministry of Finance, sent it to CSO. They hog that information without sharing it with anybody. So how the hell I can plan now or discuss or try to get a flight from Scandinavia to fly into Tobago when I don't know what the numbers are? And this is what you're in a guessing game. If you don't have data, you can't do anything. That's why they say data is the fuel for this whole new AI generation. Without data, there's no AI. Without data, there is no AI.
So we need a meeting with National Security and the Ministry of Minister of Local Government in order to put this structure. I mean, they would need TTPS on board. I mean, I would say within a month we could wrap this up, and put a plan of action where you get the community moving towards training.
That is very commendable, Gary. But you know what? I'm afraid. I'm just afraid. I don't know with you guys. I am afraid. It's exactly what Dr. Ramu experience was recently. What is it you can do for us?
So
that is the thing. They'll say, okay, how come we are circumventing? We know have all these ideas and so on. And they
do we want to travel overseas to get that same concept from some? So maybe they want to go to Switzerland or Germany or the UK.
France. Go to France and see how it's done there, or go to Switzerland and see how it's done there, and then they come back with an idea when they could get the damn bloody idea right now. It's not rocket science, my man. It's about people's lives and how. Don't wait to be. You see, the whole thing is that they are very reactive to everything here. Somebody commit a crime, somebody gets shot, then you're getting a police to come out to you. You should be able to predict
after the fact that somebody's dead already.
Be dynamic in your approach, man. Use the science to predict and see where the next crime is going to take place and why, and share the data around.
You ever ask yourself why the hunters search and rescue find the bodies instead of the police?
They're very successful, huh?
Yeah, and the reason for that is because they have some people with training in grave site and in forensics in terms of looking at how the soil is how it deteriorates. There's a whole course in forensics on that, and we have to begin to train our community police officers, right, and people who are doing the search and rescue, like the police officers who are going out there and following the leads, and looking at some of these crime scenes. These are some of the training that could be done at UWI Debe, right, in looking at grave sites and how you can identify whether there's a fresh grave, or looking at the vegetation and the change in soil structure and whatever. It tells you these boys and hunters search and rescue, they don't have those skills, but they have experience, and they keep going, and they build up that sense of understanding, right, following the leads in the village and where the person was last. And when you look at the soil and they get the smell, and they look at the animals, and they look at the beetles and the bugs, and they will pick it up as a sixth sense going along, right?
Doc,
but we need when these guys go, right, and they're not there again, right, we need for this to be institutionalized, and a training program now to train young police officers, right, to actually go on the scene. Even forensic scientists, when they come to do the scenes and whatever, and they follow the scenes to learn the skill of grave site identification, right? They call it clandestine graves, right? This is the course that they have to do. So these are some of the things that we can offer. As I said, I mean, Sumant, with the AI systems, myself at UWI Devi, we could start this training of young police recruits as soon as possible. They have a lot of rooms empty there. Start clearing the rooms, and I'll go down the road and start giving them the lectures. I just finished university 3 years ago. I have all my notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when I came out of junior secondary, senior secondary, I'm sorry, yeah, I took a job and we were doing land surveying, and the company had a guy who's a real bushman. He could smell a snake. Right, you're walking in the bush. Before he even see it, he could smell the snake.
Yeah.
So these people who grow up in that environment have that natural instinct, and they know what to look for. They may not be university level educated, but they have that natural capability.
Yeah.
An instinct. And this is why these guys can, I mean, they have a mixture of team there, but
Yeah.
but there has to be a will and in order to do it, and then
But that's
I
the
mean,
business. That's the Gary. That's the business process engineering we're talking about. I think we need to convince this government, especially they could start it as pilot programs in some of the ministries.
Yep.
Right. The late Patrick
Absolutely.
Manning, what he tried to do, right, in order to get away from the bureaucracy of the public service, he tried to create these special purpose companies. Some of them have actually, still come down to our time. It was an attempt to try to get away from the bureaucracy, right? Because the
Right.
ministry does not have that business process. But what is happening is that I think that the prime minister said she's not going to do all kind of fancy stuff and change any sort of government this and that. She's going to strengthen the current systems within the government. Okay, fine. And I think there are tools that we can use for example, executive coaching. Sumant Singh, Dr. Maraj, Gary, other persons that we will identify in this group, Mr. Siri Ram. We all are excellent executive coaches. We're not going to be staying there for 6 months and giving didactic lectures. But basically what we can do is to virtually teach them. We can go sometimes and hold their hands and show them. So that is what we call executive coaching, where you actually build the competencies and the skills within the ministry while the people are working in the ministry, rather than having them going to these courses and whatever. So these are some of the techniques that they could use. Don't hire these big consultants to come and spend $1 million to do a fancy Hilton thing with 10 people doing workshops and seminars and telling you exactly what the people telling the ministry exactly what the people are telling them to tell the ministry. Right? Don't go
You
and
get
waste
it
a lot
from
of
us for
money.
free.
A lot of the UNDPs and all these people, you know what they do? They bring in the consultants who they have abroad, right, who take the money from Trinidad and leave our skilled people here, and they don't even involve us at all. So don't get into that nonsense again.
I
Right?
can tell you.
Use the executive coaches. This is what we are saying in this group. Get other people into the group, as we mentioned a couple of nights ago, so that where we can go in and help them with the executive coaching. All right, you have to give us some stipends, some whatever it is. Virtually can be done a lot of times. So this is what I think that we should suggest as well as a policy approach to building the competencies within the ministries, so that they can start to put a business process in a lot of the things. Help them to develop the dashboards and the MER process outflows and everything else. Right, align it back to your growth pools, Sumant. So all of these things are things
This
that
all
has to be done.
fall under
Yeah.
what we have here, community resilience. The whole crime thing, the disaster response, all of that comes under the community resilience.
That's
response
building what we call it when we did the programming in Sendai in Japan. We said it's not building resilience, we say building a culture of resilience, right? And this is what we talked about, building a culture of resilience.
All could fall under that local government infrastructure.
Yeah.
Where Faris were talking about local government reform, but we're going to show them, we can show them what local government reform really should be, like, because it will be an inclusive part of disaster response, medical response, and crime, counterattacking the criminal elements, which is all, can be all part of that local government reform
Yeah,
and
the
structure.
reform,
This is
correct.
where
I fully agree. The local government reform should be
yeah.
I'm saying customer focused, but really and truly people focused. And
Yeah,
and I think that is what you're saying, and I think that is what it should be. Yes, I
yeah,
agree
it
fully.
should be, and that is the kind of reform we need. And the councillors must understand that they're not just there to build box trains, but they are the local representative of that constituency, that section, cross section
Yes,
of that area, and and we bring the councillors to collaborate with the neighboring councillor in the same concept, but there has to be that municipal governance over.
yeah.
You give the directive, provide the resources,
And one of the
and
tools, Gary, one of the tools that they could use from immediately is what we call a vulnerability capacity assessment,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So within the next few weeks, I mean, during the elections, they went down to every street. Every street captain went and pulled out every persons who were part of their people to come and vote. So they know all the streets, right? In the Ministry of Planning and Development, we call them the enumeration districts, EDs,
Yes.
right? So using EDs, you can actually when we do the health, when we do the census, what they do is under each ED, not electoral district, enumeration district, under each ED, right? They have villages, streets, towns, whatever. They can tell you exactly how many dwellings, how many single dwellings, how many male, how many female, etc., etc. Every street, that document is available in the last census, right? And of
I
course,
started something like that with the
yeah,
concept in the Tocos Grande area, as
right,
I wanted to know who was out of work, what are the skills,
right,
even as you're collecting the voter information, that you made
yes,
made a column where you add these information alongside. So when
right.
we start to address the issues, we know where and how to proceed and
And
who we
you see,
can use.
yes, with Sumant there now, what you can do now is you can take that and put it on a phone. Because
That is not yeah.
when we did this, right? I don't know if you guys know, I'm a Rotarian. I'm from Rotary International. I've been a past district governor for nearly 10 years. I was in charge of the whole of the Caribbean. Every 2 years or years sometimes, but for the past 4 years, every year around November, January, I go to India, right? And we do in India what we call the Polio Plus program, where we end polio. We have ended polio in India. So we go down and we work with WHO and we do the national immunization. And we go to some of these homes and some of these villages, right, in Delhi, Varanasi, right, in Ghaziabad, right? And we go in some slum areas and we go up to, I remember going up to a house way up on top. A lady had a baby in her hand. She had another child clinging to her, two children who were almost like 1, 2 years, 3 years around her, right? And none of them were immunized, right? But what we did is we used phones, and we have a program that we use that we were able to, every single village, we started to map every village. We know how many children, how many adults, how many disabled persons, how many amputees, how many persons over 65 years old, and we had all of that. So that is not something that we can't do with our phones, and we can do that in every village. So that if you have a person who delivered a baby today, she was pregnant yesterday, and she developed a baby in hospital, and she comes home tomorrow and there's a flood in the area, that lady, right, is vulnerable and she's susceptible to damage, including a baby. So that when the fire services come, right, with that system, we talk about that mapping system on the phone, the person in the area, the early warning point, or the person who has a little radio will be able to tell fire services, go down to that house, number 105 on the village. That lady had the baby last night. Fire will not know that, right? The councillor would not know that. The chairman of the corporation would not know that. All right. The neighbor maybe don't know, but that will be known by the people in the village using that system and communicating, Gary, like what we're talking about here. So this is how you can build the community resilience to get it to that level of efficiency and effectiveness, right? So they should start all the councillors. If you bring everybody together, right, as we talk, all the key stakeholders, we can apply the vulnerable capacity assessment tool. Let them begin to map all of the villages and areas using this tool, and I can tell you, right, we will reach the stage that we should have reached because this is what they told us to do when we went and we sat down in the workshops in abroad when we were developing the disaster risk resilience program for community resilience, right? It not only dealt, resilience is not just about disaster management, it's about crime, it's about social life, it's about engagement, it's about environment, ecology, it's about gender, and now it's about mental health. Mental health is one of the most important things that's affecting us even after the COVID pandemic. So these are some of the things, the things that we have to embed in that community resilience program, mental health, right? So this is basically what we're talking about.
Right, and you all, some of the micro things you all getting into, which I didn't want to get into really, but because I left it to the commissioner and his deputies and what have you, and I think when Doctor talking about the the board of directors instead of having deputies and all of that, because deputies are really a shadow is the same. He just needed some assistance. So I don't want to get into all of those kinds of things because I really want to stay above the fray. So what Gary, there were some people asked, I don't know if they were asking questions, but they were posting. I think I showed a couple of them. It would be nice at some point if you could, maybe next time around, you could address whatever they're asking or saying. So we, that, so you all talk about communities, and I heard the police said that the community, the community, the community. And it seems as though hidden in there is the community not giving the support that the police need. And from the comment made by one of the people here tonight, they talk about the police has everything, but they have an attitude problem, something like that. She or she was saying that's on the post. So the police saying the community help is necessary, but they're saying if you see something, say something. And that is a slogan they pick up from North America. So why would I say anything when after I say something, my neck get cut off? That is why I started tonight by saying I think I know that
Exactly.
that Mr. Suman mentioned that early. Pre- uh, Analytics, predictive analytics. That's the term I used earlier tonight. Predictive analytics and facial recognition and those kinds of things that are available, drones. So I don't have to say anything because if you could use science, I don't need, I did left of an individual input or the community input because my science could substitute for the individual. So their lives as they scared. Many people in Trinidad do report a crime because they fear what will happen thereafter. So that is the thing some of
But
you
that is
mentioned last
how where
night.
the TTPS,
Uh,
how they
uh,
manage themselves has caused that
Yes.
breakdown in structure. But whatever we have to rebuild.
So it's right. Just now you'll talk after. Just now, let me just finish. I want to go just now. So, so it seems that sometimes the police blame the community, and the community from the post tonight, the community blames the police. The police must be aware of that, and therefore the predictive analytics that I think Truman is so strong on. That I thought that would be something very helpful. The drone, everything you all mentioned tonight was very helpful. But I am still saying all of that is fine, but you all are going to get anywhere. And you won't get the buy-in because these fellas have a different mindset. So you have to understand where they are. And that is why I'm telling you. I just asking them a simple thing. Gary said that I mean, I'm not sure what is it he said about that he told some of the things I was saying that they warned him, they told him about it. I'd be saying, he'd be saying, Gary said he'd been saying that. I don't care how many times Gary said it, and that's good. But I just want to tell him, that if possible, think along the line of trying to have as Suman said, a stopgap measure, something that we want to do now because we can't wait.
ASAP. Yeah.
Something low high, I think you call it low high fruit, but it's a little more than that. It's really
Yeah.
something that is drastic but allowable and could work most likely, but you're not guaranteeing anything as 100%. So you all are making some good suggestion, but that is after the fact. You're, I really find it taking too long to come up with something to tell the people for us to hold on to. Because while and just one more thing, just I think Dr. Ramru talked about the community and the app that's what happened. My niece and sister who how got also robbed in home invasion in Valsin South. This girl that was in the next door community, that's the Springvale community. But they have this, they had the handheld analytics that the app that they use. So any strange neighborhood, they communicate with one another quickly. And I think they have a hookup with the police too. I think, I'm not sure. So there are, in other words, there are communities already doing these kinds of things, and the police need to be on top of it. And that's the holistic policing you're all talking about. They got to take an inventory of what right now exists in all communities, and that is why I feel these people moving too slow. Because you see, this few months that's going by here, they should be sleeping only 5 hours a night or whatever, something like that. But I mean, they should be on the job almost 24/7. That's what I mean. And then you could take after you get to put things in place and things that happen, you could pull back a little bit and relax and watch it play out, and then go to phase two. So I want to leave tonight, and thanks very much for allowing me to talk. Gary, do you still want me to send this thing to them? Because if you've been telling them things and they're not listening, I don't know if I kind of want to back out myself, you know, because I really don't want to do it. I really don't want to help them to that extent that they'll say, well, so what? So what you want us to do?
Yeah. Dr. Ram,
We're doing everything we could. What you're asking us to do again? We're doing everything. Oh, we know. Okay, we know everything. We're doing everything. So shut up.
What, Mr. Maraji, say, what can you bring to the table?
That's right. What can you bring to the table? Oh God,
bullshit, man.
jackass. But yes, still.
I could bring some pilau. I think if they want to know, I don't know. Anyway,
the thing is, I honestly believe that these guys have their own thinking, that they're not going to take on anything outside of that body of knowledge which they have. They think they know it all, this and that, blah, blah, blah.
The concept that I'm a policeman, I've been a policeman for X number of years. What can you tell me?
What can you tell me new? What are you bringing to the table? You go to NATEX, they say the same crap. Again, what can you do for us and blah.
But gentlemen, I intend to stay in their face, and we will sing it as long as you guys are willing to sing. And we will address the issues here, whether they take it or not. But we are sharing how we think, and it's up to them to pick from where they want to use and what they don't want to use. But I will remain fully engaged. I will not become discouraged, and we just have to be persistent. We're looking for a certain level of upgradement in how the country operates, and the level of service delivery, the safety. I mean, these are key things. A lot of us who don't want to stay where we are, even though things are good for us. Home is home, but we want home to be where you can get, like Dr. Ramos say, an ambulance and an efficient service, which I am looking forward to. And I mean, and any at any age things that happen, but we at an older age, and the fact that the certain things can happen, and you would need that kind of response. And when blood stops to flow to your brain and your oxygen, you need a certain level of response where you can get. Otherwise, you are done. So these are the concerns. I mean, people our age will have. I seen what happened to my father there. And when he thought he could go home and relax, and apparently the ambulance service is 5 minutes around the corner from the health center, and it took an hour and a half, and they can't make up their mind where they're coming from, and then they do nothing anyway. So but these are essential things that it has to be done. We are losing people every day because we are not capable and equipped to save lives.
Well, I agree. I think that immediately they should start the Ministry of Social Services, right, should start, and as I said, using the VCA tool in the communities. We should go to every single house, just like we did for elections, begin to do a VCA assessment. I would know exactly if there are 27 people living in a village. And in that village, if there are 5 or 10 young people who are not employed and who are not in the house when we came, because somebody have to account for them. And that is where we will find the extra persons who are lying around, right, who are supposed to be in that village. Everybody have a place to sleep, right? And we have to find where they sleep. We need to find out, right, where they live, right? So you might not have to have an ID in their hand, but we need to know that they exist. And once we have to do that, then I can account for everybody in the village except the other 10 people who were not there in the village that night, right? These are some of the things that we have to do using the social services tool by getting your social fabric of the country strengthened, right? By being able to help your disabled, your gender issues, your older citizens, etc. Once you use that tool as an excuse, right, we will be able to build up our, and of course, on the other side, you have your DNA. The other thing that we have to do is we have to get and round up every single Venezuelan, whether legal or not, right? Not round them up and lock them up, we have to register them, right? We have to get them on a registry, right? We have to school their children. Because if we're not schooling the children, those unemployed, those children who are not going to school, they will be the criminals of the next 5 or 10 years, right? And then we'll continue what we're doing into the next government or our government. So the thing about it is that this is now you're now looking at what you're talking about, predictive analytics,
Yep.
right? This is basically what you're saying now. You know the Venezuelans are a population that are committing some of the crimes even now. Why? Because when they came into the country, you didn't school the children, right? I go to Palmis Park every day. I drive. There's a lady there with 3 children. Now, if those children are begging for food, the mother is begging for food for them, right? Which school are they going to? Right? The government has not set up schools for them. The point is register them, right? Tag, I wouldn't say tag them, but DNA test, scan them, right? Get them on a database, right? And basically, so you'll know where they are. We have quite a lot of unaccounted population in this country. Driving from San Fernando to Mayaro, right, on a weekly basis, when you pass the villages from about 6 o'clock, from 5 o'clock in the evening to about 7 o'clock, you see a lot of these people come outside, right? And they're liming and walking. They don't come out in the day at all. So we need to do this assessment to find out what is our exact population, right? Because the Venezuelan population is going to give us some criminal activities because we're not schooling their children and we're not accounting for all of them, right? This is one of the risks that we have as a country that is living so close to Venezuela, and we should have forecasted that long ago and taken the necessary arrangements so that when they come, right, some of them will come illegally. As I said, once you start controlling your borders, then we will cut down on that. I'm not saying you will eliminate it altogether, but you will cut down. So once you start doing this, you will have a better handle on your crime. I'm not saying that you can solve crime, because in human nature, everybody here knows whatever religion you are, they are going to be bad and there's going to be good. It has been there since time immemorial, right? That's it. That's how big business. That's how big money is in crime. Prostitution is a big thing all over the world, right? And that has never changed in the ages of man, even from the civilizations of the past, right? There's no way that we can change it, but we can manage it. And this is what we are talking about, because out of prostitution comes crime and illegal drugs. That one we know, because that is a evidence-based, peer-reviewed fact that comes out of studies in all populations all over the world, right? So once we put the science in our programming, identify the vulnerable populations using the VCA testing, we can actually assist the police. Even though they say that the resources are low and whatever, right? As you say, Gary, you're building your culture of community resilience. You're using the ministries such as the Ministry of Social Services, Education, Ministry of Local Government. Of course, they are the local government. They are in care of the burgesses. So we must go through them in any time we're dealing with our communities. Ministry of Planning and Administration, get the EDs, hire some people, let them start doing the census, right? And the VCA testing, involve the other stakeholders like Red Cross and all of these people who have NGOs who are able to put people on the ground to help us to do our mapping. Start mapping our little country, right? We should have on a computer every single person, right, on a database. We know exactly where they live and how they live. That's how we are so small we could do it. It's not impossible.
Yeah, so I was encouraging that while we were collecting the information for election, I said do it one time so you know who is who and what skills they have and if they're working and they're not working, what their health issues. You make little notes now. So something we need to get back onto. But yeah, so well, gentlemen, thank you for taking your time. We I would like to encourage that we keep at it, and I mean, sing it as much as you have to, and let's remain engaged, and that's my and persistent in what we're doing here.
So Gary,
I did.
they like, so we talk, yes, and in this forum, do we get like feedback from some of the people who are listening to us, and are we able to respond to them, like what Doc was saying? I mean, is it that like what we are saying, we're talking, yes, we understand what we're going to do, we're sending our documents, hopefully it'll go up the chain. We're hoping to meet with some of the ministers, so at least
You
talk
talking
to
about the
them.
audience? Are you talking about the
Yeah,
audience?
well, yeah, I'm talking about like when we discuss here now. I mean, we talk amongst ourselves, but are people? I mean, how do we measure that
Look on
the
the
people are
screen. Look
listening?
on the
Yeah.
screen. You'll see somebody
Hold on.
comments. I'm
Okay.
putting up the screen here. You can see somebody comments. You see something to you. Uh, you see it?
Yes, visibility. Yeah. Thing that,
Okay.
that you see again, and she's correct. I mean, the point about it is that visibility is important. And one of the key things about visibility is it's like this, right? If you have a house, right, and you have 4 children, right? And they're playing in the rooms and like different. One is playing outside, another one is with a friend doing some homework in the room upstairs, and another two are watching television in a room, and you are in the kitchen, right? You have these 4 charges that you are protecting in a way. And if somebody doesn't tell you that the one outside has fallen or they're in a fight, how would you know? You understand? So you as a police officer now wouldn't be able to run to those 4 areas to find out all the time and look at your 4 children in 4 different areas. So visibility has a lot to do with the ability to optimize the resources, right? And put persons in areas where they are needed. So yes, I understand what you're talking about visibility, but sometimes you'll have to understand that when you look at the country and you have 5 different areas, right? Police would have to drive in a particular area, and it is always good for them to drive in the area where the crime or something is about to happen or going to happen or could happen. So yes, I understand what visibility is, but visibility, what we are trying to say is that just like the human body, for you to know where to go, just like you know which one of the children you need to go to, right? You must get a signal from that area that is the way to go, because it's just one of you and not 4 of you to go in the 4 areas at the same time. So
Well, yeah, my,
this
my,
is it.
my, my job is security, and I focus on risk management, prevention, and I mean, then you're gonna feedback on something there.
Yeah, that's sorry. That
Yeah. So I see things in a way where my primary objective is to prevent a situation.
Right. Identify the risk, because that is what we're talking about. Remember, that's how the
Yeah,
human body has
and I
evolved.
want
we
yeah,
are,
and I
we
want
have
to apply
evolved
that.
because of our ability to identify risk. Some will run away from it, some will face it, and that's why some people will die and some people will live. So the thing about it is that we have the amygdala in the brain. These are 2 little almond shaped organs that actually assess risk every second, whether you're sleeping or not, right? And therefore you are correct. The way to go forward in terms of crime is to do your risk management, right? Create a risk based society, right? Develop your business process in all of the businesses that you're doing in terms of crime management by business process engineering, and inbuilt into business process engineering and business process implementation will be 7 main areas, which I wouldn't go into, but basically what it will involve: one is monitoring and evaluation, early warning systems, right? Risk management, right? Samant, you could add any if you
well,
know it over.
I go to enterprise risk management.
Doc, like I told you before, we could do a few sessions here if you don't mind, in that we do the community resilience introduction of
Yeah, it's a
I
toolkit
think
that which we have from CDMA, right? Which I helped develop when I was a director of CDMA.
yeah. So we
And
could do a
we could
session on
definitely
that.
do that. Community resilience, culture building. Some of the toolkits that we have can be
So this is
shared.
where
You know,
you will be narrating, and everybody will hold
Yes,
their
that'd be nice.
their
That'd be nice.
conversation
Yeah.
and gives you a chance to
the
narrate.
VCA, the vulnerability capacity assessment, is a tool that we use with IFRC, UNDP. We use it in a lot of communities, like in Samoa. We use it in the Philippines. We use it in Peru, right? The risk mapping was done because of the earthquakes of Peru,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, in terms of these are some of the things that
What I
can
would
be
like
done.
to
Yeah.
probably do is I'll invite my friend who is in Jersey City here. He has a he does the same thing. One night I will invite him. Where they run a community resilience program, and it inclusive of the ambulance, the volunteer unit.
Yeah.
I'll probably bring him on board. But I wanted to start doing some introduction classes of what you're talking about. How people get it,
Yeah.
people grab the concept.
Yeah.
So let
Yeah.
me know
And I mean,
whenever
as I
you're
said, we
ready.
have the resources. I mean, I know that part of the new contemporary approach to community resilience is using the cross-cutting themes, right? We had gender, environment, right? We had disability. Now we have mental health, right?
Right.
So the thing about it is that they have now introduced mental health as one of the cross-cutting themes in building community resilience, and of course AI. So the
Right.
thing about it is that these are the new additions to the whole concept of community resilience, and therefore Sumant is a key person in adapting some of the learnings, right, into some of the community based programming, going
Well,
forward.
the AI comes in with giving you an advantage of analyzing the risks,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
And that just depends on the data that is fed to it.
yeah, the AI is some people misinterpret what AI means. Yeah,
Exactly. A lot of
it's
confusion with
yeah,
it
it's a lot
all.
of people might think is just
Basically, I see it as a calculator.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
the
you know it,
easier way to understand it, Gary, you have a lot of land next to yours and you want to do some gardening.
yeah.
So you
But,
have
but again, it's going to
no,
function based on the information you feed it.
just now, but and you have to till the soil. Okay, how are you going to dig it? With a pointer, a spade, a fork, a plow? How are you going to use it? How are you going to dig up that land to plant some corn, let's say? Are you going to use a pointer right through and dig up the whole land, or are you going to use a plow? That is what the AI is about.
No,
Using
I
the most
understand.
efficient tool will give you the most efficient output.
Analysis and diagnostics. I mean,
Correct.
soil
So
testing.
now with that you can use how you could advise somebody. You could tell them, hey, that guy had 25 acres. Don't use a fork to fork up that whole land, boy. Take a plow and plow it in 2 hours.
But
Or
also, if you're
2
going to
days.
create an infrastructure and you're doing soil testing, it could tell you what
The AI
kind of
does
building
all that.
structure.
The AI does all that. And what portion of that 25 acres have more nitrogen, and this side has more clay soil, and that side will have more, as we say, sapate, and that side,
Yeah, like what I
this
was
kind
doing up
yeah, which
in
one has
Pleasantville there, the Zapate
more,
dude.
more moisture in the soil. So you can
Yeah.
plant certain crops within that 25 acres that's best suited for that portion, that soil type.
And you're putting up house in Zapata, the whole thing could collapse when you dig a trench.
And slide off, that is slide off.
I get out of a trench, boy. I was so lucky.
Yeah, you see,
We just run the sewer line, and after the last month, I was down in the trench running the picket,
And
lining
it
up. And when
collapsed.
they put the last pipe and the man walk out, the whole thing collapsed. Was 30 feet deep, 30 feet deep in Pleasantville number 2 there, the section there.
Yeah.
like
Over the St.
Gary,
Madeline Road.
like Dr. Maraj talked about the fear of the citizenry. for reporting crimes, right? With AI, using specific tools, you can actually reduce the risk of the citizens reporting the crime, where the crime is reported,
Honestly,
without
Yeah,
having
but
coming from
you're
any one
analyzing the
area.
community there,
Yes,
and the conduct and behavior of the community
right.
that gives
So
you
you see,
what is
like,
the probability
correct.
of
10 years ago, when we were doing,
you're
yeah,
creating a mathematical formula there now.
that's correct. And you're bouncing the signals off about 15 IP addresses. So even if you have a real bright crook in the area who are able to hack computers, he wouldn't know which IP address is coming from.
exactly.
You see, so this is where AI is actually going to help us. You see,
Even the facial recognition, right? 2 years ago, unless you see a side of the face, it was difficult. Now, if you see the back of the head,
You
yeah,
can reform it.
you can, with a high, within 2 years, Gary, or you have to see the front or a side of the ear or
Yeah,
something.
but
Now, if
but
you see the back of the head and you
yeah,
don't know the eyes and
right, right.
the
So
ear, you
that
can.
is the technological part. But what I want to see us do, while that is absolutely necessary, we have not gotten the basic infrastructure. We're dealing with the crime from the things that are feasible and no cost to us, basically,
yeah.
which is
So
organizing
Gary, I think,
ourselves.
okay. So this is the I hear what you're saying. Now this is what it took me many years to understand it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I know what you're saying. But what it is, why the scientists have asked us to have what we call cross-cutting themes, right? Is what it does is that when you go into a community, then, right, and you're starting the basics, you have to embed simultaneously, right, all your cross-cutting teams. So that, remember when we talked about gender and we all thought it was
No, no,
about
no. I'm
women.
not saying it. I'm
No,
not
no,
saying it's
no, no, no.
whatever.
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying, I'm trying to say that my suggestion, therefore, is yes. You see, a foundation is created by basics, as you know, building blocks, right? And yes, go back to the basics and get back to your community. But now, because you're in an age of machines, you're in the fourth industrial age. When you go to a house, you'll realize that in that house you'll have a granny, a grandpa, and you will have 5 children who are teenagers, or whatever. Right
Right.
away, that whole house, right? How you deal with a community approach changes, because teenagers are not going to listen to what the hell you're going to say anyway. So by having AI embedded in your community resilience programs, etc., right? You might have a child, for example, who is struggling to figure out whether he is a boy or a girl. I'm just saying, eh? And he doesn't know if to come out of the closet in Trinidad as different to Canada or United States. So when you do this vulnerability capacity assessment, right, tool, you'll be able to identify that person, and therefore gender becomes a very important part of the discussion in the community resilience toolkit. So yes, I know what you're saying, but it is really a simultaneous discussion, right? We are framing the community resilience toolkit now to include mental health, right, as well as AI, so that when we have now adapted. Remember, every year these things change because of how the age we're in. We didn't know we were going to get COVID. All of a sudden, after COVID, now half of the world is virtual. My daughter's in Canada. They work 3 days home and 2 days in the office. The whole world has changed, and they're performing pretty good, and it has cut down costs, and they're not renting buildings as much. So you see, everything is changing. So
Yeah, but
yes, yeah.
Doc, you would have seen the signs of COVID long before it actually,
Yes.
right?
We were
And that is
seeing
what
that
the
in
data, this is what the data does. That level
we
of
we were seeing
predictability,
that in 2016, 2017. We
yeah,
knew it was coming. Yeah.
that level of
You mean
predictability is there, but
you
you
knew
have to
a pandemic was coming. You didn't know what it
That is
was.
correct. We didn't know when, but we knew
when,
it was coming. You see,
But
yeah,
that's how viruses are. They it's like taking a key and trying to open a lock. And what they do, they keep trying to open that lock, right? They keep trying to open that lock. And after a certain time, based on combinations and permutations using statistical analysis, right? You figure out now when you're going to when they will open that lock. So that's how we knew that it was coming, because that lock, we knew the chances were getting less and less to open that lock.
mhm.
well, I understand your point, but I also believe that this was something that cooked in a lab and was
Well,
unleashed.
this is the point. You see, the
Yes.
thing about it is that with wherever the virus came from, it was going to come. The thing is that whether it was created by man or whether it was naturally coming out from the Pangea or whatever it is, and the
Well,
bats,
I believe they took the natural and played with it a little.
that's correct. So therefore, in a sense, it was released in a lab. It was accidentally or inadvertently or deliberately released in a lab. And the point about it is that it was. We knew it was going to come, whether it came naturally or unnaturally. So that's the point about it. It was just about the how wasn't. It could have been an asteroid that brought it from a
Yeah,
planet.
we are not
It could have
prepared.
come on nothing.
We're not prepared to
Yeah,
to respond. We did
yeah.
not prepare. We took it for
And,
granted
and that
because
is the key. The
we grew
thing
up
is
in
that
Trinidad and nothing
yes.
major ever happens there, and we all party and fitting and having a good time and whining and dining.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you see, that's what I mean, in my last post about the NOC, I went into the earthquake because if we do have a overt attack, something that happens suddenly, right? I think Crapo smoke me pipe here.
Yeah,
We
we
get
are
a
not
7.5.
all the show business with Southern Command training me and the
Yeah.
Starboy and
Nah,
performance and thing.
no. They don't implement anything.
Yeah,
All we
so
learned from
all
World
the
Cup
photo up and
cricket and
thing. Yeah,
Summit and
yeah,
Shogam and thing, boy. I
Uh,
will
yeah.
tell you, it's a
tell me,
pathetic thing.
yeah, I was there. I was taking that stick and center in that as well. Everything you go in the ministry, you will see all the fires there in the shell gathering dust. Nobody reads these freaking things
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
Everything packed on the shelf nicely,
yeah,
gathering dust.
Yeah, but I
yeah.
said all the photo op with the Americans came and trained me, and we trained and we put on
It's
all the parades and everything, and then comes to nothing when you really need help.
And
Yep.
what was the key to showing our weakness? The guys who died in the pipe, right? In other
Yeah.
words, then the whole NOC, right? The whole feedback of communication and something, the messaging that was supposed to go upwards using the incident command system, all of that failed. If the executive had heard about that at an early stage, they could have intervened and brought in bilateral and multilateral assistance. How
But
long
yeah,
does it take?
when
How long does it take? How
Rowley carries
long
over
does it take Navy SEALs to come from America using a jet to Trinidad and Tobago, Gary? You know what I mean?
maybe. Well, if they're coming out of Puerto Rico, it could be an hour and something. Or less
Understand?
than that. Less.
Understand? That boy who come out of that pipe, them boys could have going back and get them two fellas. Them fellas died over a period of time inside there.
We had people on site. We had people on
Yeah,
site who could have helped.
yeah.
And the additional backup could have been there within 2 or 3 hours for the most,
So
because we
when
had.
these are the signals that tell you that the system of oversight and 24-hour surveillance, a
Well, they had
situational
a bunch
awareness
of
was terrible.
duns. They had a bunch of duns assigned position because of political affiliation,
Yeah. Well,
right?
I hope that we don't do the same thing here. I don't
Yeah.
mind political positioning in certain key areas, but you see, like in healthcare, crime, energy, I think some of the people who are there should really have the competencies. I mean, I'm seeing some good persons on some of the boards, so I think so far they're going okay. So let's see what happens.
But what I want to see, Doc, is that we are 100 plus years into this kind of business, right? And we should, with all the money we allocate to national security, we should be able to buy at least a 4-man mini sub, and we should be able to get the United States to train us in that type of diving, the Navy thing, whether it's the U.S. or the British, in training our Coast Guard to respond to underwater uh, incidents like these. And we should be doing some underwater patrolling, which I think is absolutely necessary. But we are not equipped and trained to respond to that, as you would know.
I
Uh,
agree. I
so
agree.
I mean, we have the relationship. I mean, all the training. I don't know why it is that we could not engage Southern Command to place the Navy within our day and give us train our Coast Guard. We have Coast Guard more starboy posing with guns than can do anything.
Yeah.
We should have a team trained just like how the Coast Guard is trained in the U.S. and then the Navy training is train these our Coast Guard to be able to dive and to be equipped and and dealing with these kind of things. And you need the mini sub that can take you down, and where you could pick up someone and bring them back. We should have been able to even cut the damn pipe, you
Yeah.
know, and cut them loose instead of having to dive all the way in them. We should have been able to cut that pipe.
Yeah.
While we send somebody into the thing there, we should have been able to cut the pipe by the time they reach that
Well,
side.
the Privy Council says a criminal act, and I mean the thing about it is that the criminal act refers to the fact that those people's lives could have been saved; they were killed.
Deliberate.
Right, but then
Yeah.
I mean the fact that
Homicide.
the minister or the line minister and the government is not held accountable for inaction, where they were in charge of the emergency services, the military, the lack of who authorized the by what authority did Paria instruct the Coast Guard to stop those who were trying to assist? Who gave Paria that authority? Stuart Young was there. What did he do? I mean, he did nothing. He just go there and
As I said, the process, the flow of information. This is the information. Information is power. Information feeding up to the pipeline. Whether these guys say yes or no, and it went up to a certain stage, then experts would have been able to give an advice. Because this didn't happen
the
here
government
alone.
didn't take charge. The government
That's
didn't
what I'm
take
saying.
charge.
The government did not get the information in time because it didn't feed up the pipeline into a national awareness center, right? Because the running of the center was put to SSA, right? SSA converted the whole NOC into an intelligence center for SSA, right? So in other words,
But
then
I'm
all
saying,
the
but the
other
decision making,
divisions.
Doc. But beside that point, the minister was on hand. They say he was there within an hour and a half. The prime minister was informed. Nothing done with them to call for help.
But that is where I think that is to me, if there were other technocrats and experts involved in it, they should have taken advice from them. The fact that it didn't, right, that means that it's a criminal act and really and truly
they
these
obstruct,
people.
they obstruct the
That
people.
goes another problem. That goes that somebody has something to hide.
Yes.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it too. Somebody has something to hide, especially somebody
What were they
higher
doing
up.
there? Yeah, what were they doing there? They didn't want outsiders to see.
Correct. And you could tie that back to all these, amount of oil that was.
But now we have the opportunity to examine the site. We could examine the site now.
Yeah.
And this Pete Phillips guy who went down with the wreckage, up to now I don't hear nothing about him.
Yeah.
The guy from down, not Rusilac.
The gentleman who died in
Well, services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who went down with the wreckage of the platform. We don't hear nothing about him. All of a sudden, there's no compensation. Nothing.
Yep. Well, anyway, that's
gentlemen,
good. Nice. Sorry to chat.
So let me know. We'll talk for tomorrow night.
Sure.
All right, but Doc, keep in mind we're talking about doing these introduction classes. So
as I said, you lead the way, and once you give us.
No, but let me know if you're ready tomorrow night. I'll give you a link and you go live.
Yeah, as I said, what we'll do is we can begin by indicating. That's not a problem. You just let me know what you need me to do, and tomorrow is what? Wednesday.
Tomorrow's Wednesday.
All right. Yes, I'm okay. I'm free tomorrow. Tuesday I have a meeting, but tomorrow I'm okay. Yeah.
So tomorrow night we'll start up where you introduce yourself and you give your illustration of what you're talking about, and without interruption, we keep everybody muted.
I would like
we'll add to it along the way.
You give him a chance to make the introduction, then we ask the questions.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Good.
All right. So good. Tomorrow night.
Gary, I suggest, can we tape this one? Tape this.
I could download it. It's recorded, but what I'm saying to you is, remember it's on YouTube. We pull it up anytime.
Because we might have some solid ideas there if you want to formulate like a position paper.
But remember, this is on the internet. This session remains on the internet. I could download the actual footage. So this is always there. This is existing. This program stays on the internet. You pull up the link anytime and you can go and look at it.
Yeah, not for our information, but really, if you can formulate at the end of it all a position paper on it and send it to who we think we should send it to.
Well, yeah. You hear what you do the documentation while Dr. Ramop is doing the discussion, and then you could converse with him and you put whatever paper you want to put together, both of you.
I was just
Um,
thinking about it like that because
no,
again,
yeah, definitely. But I want him.
what sense we running the ideas here, solid ideas, worth digesting and thinking about and trying.
Hello, do you see the amount of views these ideas get?
Yeah, because listen, it's just that the higher ups not thinking along these lines.
Well, you'll be surprised to know who's watching and listening.
Not even watching and listening, but the people who have the authority to take the action. Yeah, as we always say.
So, Ron, this feed shares. I have other WhatsApp groups that they are involved in,
I know,
and they
Gary.
can look at it anytime they want, and they do look. In fact, I have known for a fact that they do.
No, what I say, put it bluntly, the ministers really don't care. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Well,
That
listen to
people
me.
supposed to take the action.
In my business, I
Yeah.
write the incident report and I submit it. If you don't want to look at that's on you, but I give you the incident report, I give you the recommendation, and if the incident takes place, and you, like for instance, the risk management report, then basically where I see the risk, I point out the issues, and
Mhm.
if you did not address it, it's on your back.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the way I go about it. I am not going to chase you around. I'm going to give you the information. I'm going to bring it to your attention because I know you're dealing with a lot, and it's good to you need people to remind you because you can't do everything. You're a human being. I understand that, and this is why we stay focused on here. Is that it's nothing. There is no crime, no offense in reminding somebody. We are not trying to overthrow anybody. We are trying to support and supplement.
Yeah.
And that's the way I see it. And I remind you, and and my recommendation and suggestion has always been accepted. So I don't have any issues with that part of it. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah. It's just that we don't want it to be a talk shop. We spit out the ideas, spit out the solutions, and
Well, it's not because his ideas are very professional and detailed,
yes.
uh,
I understand, but the
and
people
it's
to take
relevant.
my question is that the people to take the action on it now. We have identified everything, so to speak. We may have missed out certain things, no problem, like
Well,
everything else. Okay.
they will be sent the link, and it's up to them if they want to or not want to.
Yeah. Good.
I'll bring them to the water. I can't force the water down their throat.
Yeah. I understand.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right then, guys. Good night. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
We'll catch up
nice.
tomorrow.
Everybody, all right. Good night.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a good night.